Watching Gu Weonian and Chun Yun leave, Su Jie stood in place for a while. Noticing some restless glances, he turned around and went back to the center of the black market. So impatient already? As Su Jie walked, he pondered in his heart. He had already sensed several groups of people secretly watching him. Many groups were eyeing him. Clearly, the wealth he held now had tempted far too many people. Moreover, being an outer disciple, they had even fewer scruples about making a move. Turning around, he once again entered the central area of the black market and went straight to a building. Spiritual Pill Association. On the plaque hung 3 large gilded characters. Su Jie strode inside. As the name suggested, the Spiritual Pill Association was a shop specialized in selling various kinds of elixirs. The store not only bloomed all over the Qingzhou region but also had a branch in the black market of Ghost Ridge Palace. Mr. Su, please come in, please come in. Your presence truly brings light to our humble shop. The shopkeeper, seeing Su Jie, immediately shone with excitement and greeted him with great enthusiasm. Today, Su Jie had made quite a stir in the black market. Many merchants recognized him and knew very well that he was extraordinarily wealthy and had money to spend. Shopkeeper, take me to the 2nd floor. Su Jie glanced around. The 1st floor mainly sold flawed and low-grade low-level elixirs, mostly crude products crafted by apprentices, which no longer interested him. The real treasures were on the 2nd floor, where even mid-grade elixirs were sold. Absolutely, Mr. Su, this way, please. The shopkeeper's face bloomed into a chrysanthemum, eagerly bowing to lead the way. Upstairs, as soon as Su Jie entered, he smelled the intoxicating faint scent of medicine, which made the spiritual power in his body circulate faster. Wherever he looked, large sparkling glass dishes displayed each glittering, colorful elixir. Even standing at a distance, he could feel the powerful spiritual charm fluctuations emitted by these elixirs. With a massive accumulation of elixirs, the spiritual energy half liquefied in the air, forming mists of swirling spiritual power. The elixirs displayed here were at least lower-grade intermediate, and there were even several mid-grade elixirs. How many 9 Yang pills are left? After scanning around, Su Jie spoke up. 9 Yang pills were a lower-grade intermediate elixir, crafted with 9 types of Yang attribute plants as the main ingredients and a large amount of Yin attribute plants as secondary, refined by a lower-grade alchemist. After consumption, it could regulate the circulation of spiritual energy in the body, nourish spiritual power, and accelerate cultivation. Responding to Mr. Su, our shop has a total of 15 9 Yang pills left. Are you? The shopkeeper's heart stirred the moment he saw Su Jie wave his hand grandly. 15, not many. Wrap them all up for me. I'm buying them all. Hearing such a generous offer, the shopkeeper's smile grew even brighter, and even his back teeth showed. 1 9 Yang pill was worth 20 blood marrow crystals. 15 equaled 300 blood marrow crystals. A truly big customer indeed. Mr. Su, please wait a moment. I'll wrap them up for you right away. Responding, the shopkeeper hurriedly went to pack the elixirs for Su Jie. Some 10 minutes later, Su Jie left the Spiritual Pill Association under the enthusiastic farewell of the shopkeeper. Blood marrow crystals that I couldn't earn in a year, now exchanged for elixirs, something I wouldn't dare think about in the past. Looking at the jade bottle he was holding, Su Jie secretly felt moved, enjoying the thrill of being wealthy. Such 9 Yang pills, if it were the Su Jie of the past, would have taken a month of saved blood marrow crystals, living without eating or drinking just to barely afford one. Now, he bought 15 in one go, and at the rate of consuming one every 3 days, it would be enough for Su Jie for a month and a half, probably making him the most extravagant among the outer disciples. After leaving the Spiritual Pill Association, Su Jie headed straight to a building not far away that bore the large sign of the Tiangong Pavilion, which primarily sold various special magic artifacts. Upon entering the store, Su Jie was also warmly greeted by the shopkeeper. Shopkeeper, get me a storage bag. The smallest size will do. Our Tiangong Pavilion storage bags. The smallest storage area one sells for 99 blood marrow crystals. Bought it. 1 minute later, Su Jie had a small blue storage bag in his hand. The storage bag was crafted from a rare heavenly material and earthly treasure called the Nine Heavens Crystal Stone, which could only be refined by a mid-grade refiner or above and was always pricey. Even the smallest storage bag Su Jie had, measuring just 1 cubic meter, was valued at 99 blood marrow crystals. Therefore, storage bags were typically unaffordable for outer disciples. Only inner disciples would choose to wear one. After opening the storage bag with spiritual power, Su Jie stuffed in his blood marrow crystals, white bone sky-slaying sword, elixirs, and other such items. Yet, Su Jie did not stop his steps. He continued on a major shopping spree. In a few hours, he successively bought various objects related to cultivation. For instance, cushions that could calm the mind, sandalwood that accelerated meditation, and miscellaneous items like spirit grain and spirit water that could condition the body and slightly enhance physical strength. After a round of shopping, most black market merchants knew that a rich client had arrived. They greeted Su Jie with extraordinary enthusiasm as soon as they saw him. Even the beautifully dressed-up ladies from Wanhua Building, who enticed guests in the brothel to listen to songs, came out to the streets, pulling Su Jie to enjoy their pleasures. Fortunately, Su Jie was upright and completely opposed to gambling and drugs, ultimately managing to refuse them on the grounds of not having much money left, though it was extremely difficult. While Su Jie happily shopped, this scene made those secretly watching him grow anxious. A few Ghost Ridge Palace disciples lowered their hoods, pretending to be passers-by, and quietly discussed. How come he keeps shopping? He must have spent all his blood marrow crystals. No matter, we'll get those items anyway. And besides, he still has the white bone sky-slaying sword. Let's take action immediately once he leaves the black market, to avoid others beating us to it. Unfortunately, these insidious disciples didn't know that Su Jie had no intention of confronting them directly. Walking on the black market streets, Su Jie, having spent over 1,000 blood marrow crystals, looked at his full storage bag and nodded satisfactorily. These supplies were enough for him to comfortably cultivate for a couple of months without worrying about external disturbances. Tisk, over 20 people, wow, there are actually more than 30 waiting for me. Do they think I'm some kind of essential giblet? Noticing this from his reconnaissance dragonfly secretly, Su Jie muttered to himself. With Su Jie's current strength, he was definitely unable to handle so many greedy jackals and hyenas. But Su Jie had no intention of tangling with them. It's better to avoid what you can't oppose. Once my divine skill is fully developed, I'll come back and slaughter you all one by one. With a cold snort, Su Jie turned into a deserted alley, entered an abandoned courtyard, then closed the door, opened the ancient mirror, and stepped through, returning to the Blue Star world. Long after Su Jie had left, those disciples realized something was wrong and hurriedly blocked the alley. Wave after wave of Ghost Ridge Palace disciples from different groups, but with the same purpose, met each other and felt a bit awkward. Awkward as it was, knowing what the others were there for, the disciples started searching in the alley. Unfortunately, these Ghost Ridge Palace disciples turned the alley upside down but couldn't find a single hair from Su Jie. That was expected unless they could chase him to the Blue Star. Finding him would be impossible. Unable to find the person, these disciples naturally became agitated and even suspected someone had secretly killed Su Jie. No one knew who started it, but these disciples began accusing each other and eventually even fought amongst themselves, ending in a complete mess. Blue Star, Linping City. Su Jie stood in a deserted, unfinished building and put away the ancient mirror behind him. Trying to chase me? Eat my dust. Humming a cheerful tune, Su Jie released the reconnaissance dragonfly, and then took the white bone sky-slaying sword from his storage bag. The white bone sky-slaying sword was very light. Its blade was made from the spine of an unknown demon beast, exhibiting an ivory-like white sheen that was far harder than steel. Once in hand, both the smooth surface and sharp edge radiated an intense chill. Even the blade itself faintly exuded the smell of blood, presenting itself as a fearsome sword of slaughter. Su Jie held the sword and aimed it at the ground, giving it a gentle swing. In an instant, a cold gleam burst forth, filled with murderous aura, as if the entire blade had come to life. The flying sword, made section by section from the spine, twisted and curled freely like a python flicking its tongue or an eagle swooping down, slashing a several meters long crack into the concrete floor. This was just the most basic application. Next, Su Jie bit his fingertip and let his blood, mixed with his spiritual power, drip onto it. Buzzing, the white-boned sky-slaying sword started to vibrate, as if it was resisting and struggling. Su Jie infused more spiritual energy, and after about 10 minutes, the white-boned sky-slaying sword finally settled down, becoming fully refined by Su Jie into a flying sword he could control with ease. Rise! With a light shout, the flying sword suddenly soared into the air, circling around Su Jie smoothly, like a slender silver bird enamored with its master. As Su Jie willed it, the white-boned sky-slaying sword shot out instantly like lightning, piercing the air with a sharp, heart-pounding sound. Boom! The white-boned sky-slaying sword penetrated a reinforced concrete building, creating a gaping hole front and back, like a meteor hitting the earth, its edge completely exposed. In an instant, an endless aura of slaughter spread out. Wherever the flying sword went, no object could withstand even a fraction of its force. Whether it was branches of trees or reinforced concrete, everything was pierced effortlessly. As it flew close to the ground itself rolled up into 3-foot-high waves of mud, carved into a deep trench by the keen sword chi of the white-boned sky-slaying sword. Whoosh! The white-boned sky-slaying sword flew past Su Jie, stirring up a whirlwind that made his clothes flutter loudly, followed only then by the splitting sound, deafening to the ears. This scene was too shocking. Human eyes could not keep up with the speed of the white-boned sky-slaying sword. One could only hear the earth-shattering boom. The sound of the sword trembling caused nearby trees to quiver, battering people's eardrums. What human eyes could capture were mere streaks of silver light flashing swiftly, slicing through the sky, appearing as delicate as drawn lines. As the sword tip painted, silver light sped across areas, cracking the ground and scattering bricks and stones, penetrating a tall building with a thunderous roar, piercing through 5 or 6 levels of reinforced concrete before its spirit power was spent and its speed started to wane. In this devastating scene, one could discern a supreme beauty of power. After manipulating it, Su Jie's internal spiritual energy was greatly depleted, forcing him to lessen the energy supply, significantly slowing the white-boned sky-slaying sword. Even then, the white-boned sky-slaying sword remained immensely powerful, easily piercing through reinforced concrete. If used against people, there was no need to maintain such immense power. Indeed, it's the best among the low-grade flying swords. Finally, Su Jie retracted the white-boned sky-slaying sword, looking at it still as shiny and devoid of any dust as ever, a smile involuntarily appearing at the corner of his mouth. However, it would be even better if the attack range could be stronger. It looks like I will have to rely on the green rainbow sword technique. Su Jie caressed the cold blade. Limited by Su Jie's divine sense and spiritual power, the flying sword could only attack within a 400-meter radius around him. Taking out the jade scroll of the green rainbow sword technique from the storage bag, Su Jie sat cross-legged on the ground, transferring the knowledge from the scroll into his sea of consciousness to study and comprehend it. This comprehension lasted an entire day and night. When Su Jie opened his eyes again, there was a hint of joy in his gaze. The green rainbow sword technique was divided into sword control, body sword, and refining sword. Sword control involved the skills and ability to manipulate the flying sword. Body sword was the method of fighting with a sword in one hand, and refining sword was how to maintain and refine the flying sword so that it communicated with the host's mind, achieving an arm-like command and a unity of person and sword. Because the green rainbow sword technique was not complicated, Su Jie mastered it very quickly. When Su Jie tried to control the flying sword again and applied the techniques of the green rainbow sword technique, sure enough, the speed of the white-boned sky-slaying sword increased by 1/3. Speed equated to power, and naturally its might also increased. Beyond the speed, the attack range of the white-boned sky-slaying sword also significantly expanded, extending to a maximum attack radius of 800 meters. Now I also have long-range attack capabilities, annihilating the enemy with one sword from 800 meters away. Unable to help himself, Su Jie imagined himself controlling the flying sword, the sword humming forth, and before the sound arrived, enemies 800 meters away were beheaded as easily as reaching into a bag. Of course, this level was still a tiny bit short of taking down an enemy machine gunner from 800 miles away with a single shot. After a series of tests, Su Jie fully grasped the power of the flying sword, which left him thoroughly satisfied. After clearing the traces around him, Su Jie packed up his things and left the abandoned construction site area. 2 days later, Jingjiang No. 1 Villa. Lu Yingying lay on Su Jie's chest like a kitten, her face still bearing a trace of a flush. Su Jie, how long are you staying this time? A month or 2? I'm free during that time. Su Jie pinched Lu Yingying's tender face, full of collagen. Having obtained a month of rest time from the command hall, Su Jie had enough time to slowly cultivate. No one would disturb him in Blue Star, which was also why he had purchased so many cultivation resources. Really? Lu Yingying's eyes lit up. Could I still lie to you? Humph. Wasn't I tricked by you in the first place? Lu Yingying said somewhat shyly yet proudly. It was clearly my sincerity that moved you. If money also counted as sincerity, then Su Jie's sincerity was indeed full. Getting off the bed, Su Jie checked the time on his phone and spoke. It's about time. Manager Liang just sent a message. He's waiting at the airport. Let's get ready to head to Chan Country. Linping City International Airport. Su Jie got out of the car, Lu Yingying in a black suit by his side, her crisp uniform displaying an elegant figure and an intellectual aura, keeping tempo by Su Jie's side, drawing envious glances from many men. Mr. Su, these are the people I brought. Liang Lianjuan came over with a few Tenuan home employees, prompting them to greet. Hello, Mr. Su. The other employees called out, seeing Su Jie, the legendary big boss, for the first time. They were curious about his young age but dared not express it, fearing to offend. After all, it's hard to find a generously compensated job these days. Let's board the plane first. Su Jie nodded, his gaze turning towards the stationed airliner. His business venture in Blue Star would begin from Chan Country. Only in a nation as chaotic and with a weak national machinery like that could be the most suitable ground for the rise of his ambition. Chan Country, East Chin State, Monday City, Sheila Airport. After a layover, Su Jie and his group had just disembarked from the airplane when a wave of heat swept over them. Situated in the tropics, Chan Country still experienced quite high temperatures, even though it was already autumn. So this is Chan Country. Su Jie looked around the airport, which wasn't very crowded. The locals, both men and women, wore rather simple clothing. Most men wore a type of skirt, with slippers on their feet, while most women wore colorful scarves and had their hair done up in high, sleek buns. As they exited the airport, many drivers immediately surrounded them to offer their services. Many even recognized that Su Jie and his group were from Hua Country and switched to speaking Hua language, albeit with a heavy accent which was mostly understandable. Because Chan Country bordered Hua Country, it had been culturally influenced since ancient times. Many locals in Chan Country could speak and write the Hua language, and Hua Yuan could even be used directly here and was especially stable compared to the local currency, which suffered from severe exchange rate fluctuations. Arrange for the staff to go to the hotel first. Yingying and Elder Liang can accompany me to the office, Mr. Su instructed. Everyone got into the cars, and the vehicles started up, heading toward the company on the outskirts of the city. The driver, who was a talkative man, asked, "Are you going to Lamao district to do the wood business as well? How could you tell?" Haha. There are many wood merchants from Hua Country like you. I've driven quite a few around. The driver chuckled and then cautioned. However, while doing business, don't go too far into remote areas. It's safer to stay around the city. Otherwise, there might be danger. Is it very chaotic around here? Very chaotic, very poor, nowhere near your Hua Country people. The average wage here is only equivalent to 400 or 500 Hua Yuan. With no money, people often resort to dishonest means, explained the driver. His words made Liang Lianjuan fidget nervously, thinking of the various legends of opium planting, scam operations, and kidney harvesting in Chan country. Do local officials not do anything? Oh, they do something all right. They sit on top and collect benefits. What else can they do? Look at this road we're driving on, full of potholes. It hasn't been repaired for many years, the money all embezzled. A few exchanges with the driver revealed his evident bitterness. At that moment, the car passed a checkpoint where several soldiers, armed with AKs and dressed in green military uniforms, were stopping cars and collecting fees. Don't say anything for a minute, he advised, and then stopped the car, handing 500 Zen coins to one of the soldiers while speaking in the local language. They were then allowed to proceed. As the vehicle started moving again, Liang Lianjuan curiously asked, "Who are those people? And why are they collecting money?" "That's our military here, the Monde United Army. They charge a vehicle operation fee, applicable to all vehicles including motorcycles and bicycles," explained the driver. The driver gave a wry laugh, and fearing that Liang Lianjuan might not understand, added, "It's not a government army, but a local militia." Liang Lianjuan responded, exasperated, "Setting up roadblocks everywhere to charge fees. They really dare to do all sorts of things." Lu Yingying chimed in, "Chan country is very chaotic. It's a multi-ethnic nation with over 100 ethnic groups, leading to many large and small local warlords. Their relationships are very complex, continually in a semi-independent state, much like our Tang dynasty in its later stages." She had been to Chan country before and had some impressions of the severe chaos and fragmentation in the country. As they chatted, the car gradually left the city area and arrived at a vast expanse of warehouses. This area was filled with numerous logs, some stored outdoors, others stacked in warehouse buildings, and vehicles carrying logs frequently passed by, kicking up clouds of dust. This was Lamao District, a center for wood storage and trading. Chan country was a major exporter of wood, shipping out millions of tons annually. This was a pillar industry for Chan country, with numerous such wood trading centers scattered across the nation. The car continued driving and eventually stopped in front of a 3-story building. The building bore the sign of Jinda D Company, with a row of warehouses behind it. This was the shell company that Lu Yingying had registered in Chan country as per Su Jie's instructions. The office inside the building was not heavily staffed. Just 6 local employees, who greeted Lu Yingying in slightly awkward Hua language as soon as they saw her. "This building and the warehouses behind have been purchased. The building is for office use, and the warehouses are for storing and transferring wood," Lu Yingying briefly explained, and then said to Su Jie, "All the procedures have been completed. I am waiting for your commands." "There's nothing else. Just follow me to pick up the goods," he responded. Su Jie smiled and immediately energized Liang Lianjuan at his side, who had been waiting a long time for the timber Su Jie had promised. The next day, in an empty area, Su Jie took out the ancient mirror and stealthily returned to Tianyuan World. He found the timber he had initially cut near the black market, then transported it through the ancient mirror to Blue Star for the truck team to haul away. Su Jie completed the whole process quickly, as he discovered that some disciples were tracking him again. He could only swiftly blend into the crowd at the black market and then enter a room to shake off the pursuers. The quantity of timber was even greater than before, as Su Jie, having nothing to do in Tianyuan World, had indulged in excessive logging. When all the timber entered Jinda D's warehouse, Liang Lianjuan was almost moved to tears in excitement. Small leaf rosewood, golden nan wood, yellow pear wood, golden camphor. Mouth clearly naming each kind of timber, Liang Lianjuan touched the piled wood in the warehouse, his fingers trembling slightly, because just the value of these timbers alone was already worth several billion. If turned into furniture, the prices would double even further. "Mr. Su, when do we start shipping? With this batch of timber, Tianyuan Furniture can make an immediate name for itself domestically." Liang Lianjuan's face flushed with excitement, foreseeing the huge success of Tianyuan Home once this batch of timber was back in the country. Su Jie turned his head to Lu Yingying and said, "Yingying, have Jinda D Company contact an international air freight company and ship all this timber back to the country. Are we going for air freight? That's quite expensive. No worries, we can afford the freight fee. Time is more important. Generally speaking, timber transportation mostly uses sea and land routes due to the high cost of air freight, but these timbers had no original cost for Su Jie, so a few million or 100 million in freight charges was nothing. Lu Yingying nodded her acknowledgement and immediately went to make arrangements. In the following days, the entire Jinda D company operated at full capacity, contacting international air freight, declaring goods with Hua Country Customs, and pre-disinfecting and segmenting the timber, and more. Only when each piece of timber was loaded onto 5 cargo planes flying to Hua Country could the matter be considered concluded. Meanwhile, Liang Lianjuan returned to the country, overseeing the manufacture and sale of furniture made from this precious wood, working overtime. Su Jie did not return but rather registered a new company locally, named Jeka Biology Development Company. How much money is left in the company accounts? In the office, Su Jie asked his personal secretary. We still have 5.5 million Hua Yuan. Lu Yingying replied without hesitation. That was all the liquid funds they had until that batch of timber was sold. It's a bit low, but it's almost enough for the initial phase. Su Jie stroked his chin and turned around. On the wall behind him, there hung a map of Monday City and its surrounding towns, home to 3 different ethnic groups, with a population of about 700,000. Monday City was part of East Chin State, which had an approximate population of 3.5 million. Let's start with this, Yingying. Have the employees of Jeka Biology go out to the villages for promotion, start the first plan, and let Jeka Company buy various poisonous insects in bulk from the locals without a limit, telling them to go up into the mountains to catch insects. Lu Yingying nodded. Then, unable to restrain herself while looking at Su Jie's back, asked, Su Jie, what exactly are we doing this for? She knew that Su Jie owned an insect farm, but she did not understand why he needed to start a new insect farming company in Shan Country. You think I'm really just doing this for raising insects? Isn't it? That's only one aspect. Su Jie chuckled softly, drew a circle on Monday City with a pen, and said slowly, It's just the beginning right now. Next, I'm only doing one thing. I want the Monday City region to henceforth carry the last name Su and become my personal kingdom. Oh! Lu Yingying's heart nearly stopped, her eyes wide open, speechless for a long time as she didn't know whether to say Su Jie was fantasizing or simply too ambitious. Su Jie's gaze did not waver. He simply waved his hand and said, You don't need to worry, just go on and work. After Lu Yingying left, Su Jie touched the 1,000-hand centipede that was crawling out of his collar and muttered to himself, Don't rush, very soon, this will be your paradise. The opening of our kingdom of poisonous insects will be grand on this land. Autumn. The golden rice fields swayed with the wind, resembling waves rippling. At Laji village, the villagers, as always, hastened to harvest the rice while the sun's heat was still mild. I asked yesterday, and this year's rice purchasing price is much lower than last year's. In the fields, a dark-skinned man in his 20s complained to his fellow villagers as he wielded a sickle to cut the rice. We earn so little from the grain. When will we ever make enough money to move to the city? I'm even considering growing poppy. His companion was equally resentful, cursing this dog's age. I would never grow that harmful poppy even if it killed me. Miao Luan's face darkened, and he shot an angry glance over. The poppy, indeed opium, was the very reason his father had died, and he held a profound loathing for it. All right, I was just saying, those things are grown in the north. No one here messes with that. His companion gave a sheepish laugh and quickly explained. Miao Luan's expression softened somewhat, but just then, a strange noise interrupted the moment. Extraordinary good news! Extraordinary good news! Jeka Company is now purchasing all kinds of poisonous insects and snakes, with no limit on quantity, priced by weight, payment made on the spot, fair to everyone. Extraordinary good news! Extraordinary good news! Jeka Company is now purchasing all kinds of poisonous insects and snakes, with no limit on variety, priced by weight, payment made on the spot, fair to everyone. A dilapidated van drove past the muddy road by the field ridge, its body adorned with festive red advertisements. A loudspeaker mounted on the roof repeated the message, drawing the attention of the busy villagers looking up. "What's this, buying bugs?" Miao Luan was befuddled. Where on earth did this Jekka company come from, and why were they buying bugs? The van stopped right in front of him, and a man dressed in a uniform emblazoned with the word Jekka stepped out and called to him, "Friend, are you interested in learning more? You're really buying bugs? Paying money?" Miao Luan asked tentatively, even as he picked up a grasshopper from the ground and held it up. "Like this kind of insect?" The Jekka employee laughed upon seeing it and said, "Of course, our Jekka is owned by a prominent Chinese businessman. Absolutely genuine. For the grasshopper in your hand, let me see. An orthopteran insect. We'll pay 5 Hua Yuan per kilogram." "How much? 5 Hua Yuan a kilogram, and you pay in Hua Yuan?" Miao Luan could hardly believe his ears. His daily wage converted to Hua Yuan was no more than 15 yuan. Catching 3 kilograms of grasshoppers would equal a day's wage, and it was paid in Hua Yuan at that, which was far more useful than their Zen coins. It wasn't just Miao Luan who heard this. The nearby villagers also caught wind of the conversation, causing a stir throughout the area. Who was this fool offering such a high price for grasshoppers? "Our Jekka company is a major brand, very trustworthy. Everyone can catch with ease, and we absolutely won't default on payment. Not just grasshoppers, we buy all sorts of poisonous insects and snakes, and the prices are even higher. You all can take a look," the Jekka employee reassured, handing out flyers to the villagers, but some already could not wait. Like Miao Luan, who, after confirming it wasn't a scam, immediately dropped his sickle, picked up a snake bag, and began to search and catch grasshoppers all around. In the fields during the harvest, there was no shortage of grasshoppers. A simple stomp could startle many. Miao Luan, who had caught plenty as a child, was adept at catching them now, nailing it each time. Seeing this, others followed suit, afraid the grasshoppers in the field would all be snatched away. It all happened in the blink of an eye. The villagers who had been harvesting millet one moment turned into bug-catching experts the next, with many even running back home to call their wives, children, and parents to join the frenzy, with entire families getting involved. As darkness fell, Miao Luan approached the Jekka employee for the 3rd time, handing over the 2 kilograms of grasshoppers he had just caught. 10 Hua Yuan, take care." The transaction complete, the Jekka employee poured all the grasshoppers into a glass box, and as the sky continued to darken, he found himself compelled to announce a temporary departure. "It's getting too late. I'll come back tomorrow, and I'll still buy the bugs, so everyone, don't worry." After the Jekka employee finished speaking, he got into the van loaded with grasshoppers and drove off unsteadily. Meanwhile, the villagers at the site were still buzzing with excitement, everyone's faces alight with excitement and thrill, because the day's catch from bug catching surpassed what they would earn in a day's wage by far. Miao Luan counted the Hua Yuan in his hands over and over, amounting to 27 Hua Yuan, nearly equal to his 2 days' earnings. Wearing a simpleton's grin, Miao Luan excitedly said, "If they come every day to buy, I'll be able to save up enough money for my mother's treatment soon, and at the same time my sister will be able to go to school and study." His mother had been bedridden since the year before due to a severe illness, unable to seek medical attention due to lack of funds. Now, his greatest desire was to save enough money to take his mother to a big city hospital for treatment. Pocketing the money, Miao Luan headed back home. In the dim, cramped earthen house, his 12-year-old sister was busying herself at the stove, preparing a meager dinner of thin porridge and dried vegetables, clear and watery. As soon as Miao Luan entered the house, he couldn't wait to tell his mother and sister about what had happened that day. Only when they saw the Hua Yuan that Miao Luan took out did they believe that he wasn't talking nonsense. "Mother, I won't keep talking. While there's still time, I have to hurry and catch some more bugs." After a quick dinner, Miao Luan grabbed his flashlight and went out again, searching for poison insects that the Jekka company needed. It was creatures like toads, venomous snakes, scorpions, centipedes, and the like, which only came out at night. making it suitable for nocturnal hunting. Many villagers shared Miao Luan's plans. The day's earnings had motivated many, letting them realize that bugs could be so valuable. The following day, Miao Luan, with dark circles under his eyes, stood with a group of villagers at the village entrance, eagerly waiting. When the loud honking sounded and the van came into sight, Miao Luan and the surrounding villagers cheered, swarming toward it. That night's catch meant another 20 yuan in earnings for Miao Luan, who was over the moon with excitement. And a villager who had caught a venomous snake was boasting loudly, for it had sold for a whopping 100 yuan. Compared to their farming, these earnings were far more rewarding for the local villagers whose livelihoods mainly depended on agriculture. From that day on, the villagers busied themselves daily searching for various poison insects and snakes, exchanging them for Hua Yuan from the Jekka Company. Similar events were not limited to Laji village. The same was true for a dozen other villages and towns nearby. In no time at all, the Jekka Company's reputation soared in the surrounding area, and even Monday City had heard of it. The local villagers' view of the Jekka Company grew increasingly positive, with several poison insect purchasing stations crowded every day, and bug catching became a major source of income for many villagers. While the villagers were elated over their newfound wealth from catching bugs, they were unaware that they had entered into a carefully orchestrated grand scheme. As the transactions became more frequent, their economy was being tied to the great tree that was Jekka. When people grew increasingly dependent on Jekka, a time would come when if Jekka were to collapse, the entire economy of Monday City would regress into chaos. That would also be the day when Monday City would be utterly dominated and bound. The purchasing plan for the insects proceeded smoothly and in an orderly fashion. Within a warehouse in Lamao district, various poison insects and snakes that had been acquired from the outside world were brought to this place. At this moment, the 1,000-hand centipede lay on the ground, its body now stretching over 9 meters in length. The copious amount of food it consumed during this period allowed it to grow crazily in size. If anyone were to discover the centipede in this state, they would probably faint from fright. Not far from the 1,000-hand centipede, Su Jie sat cross-legged on a purple cushion, with the invigorating scent of sandalwood burning beside him. He took out a 9-yang pill from the jade bottle and swallowed it. Overwhelming spiritual energy navigated through his limbs and marrow before being absorbed and stored in the meridians. During cultivation, the 1,000-hand centipede shrank its body, laying on Su Jie's waist and abdomen, attaching its pale corpse hands one by one. Time moved on and several hours went by. Su Jie's spirit essence grew stronger and stronger, like a lotus breaking through the mud and surfacing from the water. Eventually, the accumulated spiritual power reached its peak, breaking through a clogged meridian pathway. Bang! Spiritual power shimmered around Su Jie's body, and as naturally as water flows along a channel, he advanced to the 5th level of the Yunling realm. The resources bought with the thousands of blood marrow crystal prepared in the Tianyuan world allowed Su Jie's cultivation to skyrocket in just 2 weeks. He had now reached the 5th level of the Yunling realm, something he hadn't dared to dream of in the past. The 1,000-hand centipede climbed up Su Jie's neck, happily rubbing back and forth, sharing in the joy of Su Jie's advancement. "You're about to level up too, huh?" Touching the cold body of the 1,000-hand centipede, Su Jie could feel the abundant vitality and vigor within it. Sizzle. The 1,000-hand centipede responded with a hissing sound. It was steadily progressing toward its 3rd evolution of spirit refining. With an abundant supply of poisonous insects, it would face almost no obstacles before advancing to a mid-grade poisonous insect. But Su Jie had even more considerations. Because according to the records in the books, after advancing to a mid-grade poisonous insect, to continue evolving, apart from relying on heavenly materials and earthly treasures and the passage of time, swallowing ordinary poison insects would be of no effect. It would require great entry poison insects, and at that point, the insects from Blue Star would no longer serve a purpose. Su Jie had come to Chan country to plan ahead and make preparations. Once the 1,000-hand centipede advanced to mid-grade, Su Jie would bring some of the Tianyuan world's poisonous insects over at that time. For instance, he would feed a large number of poison insects to a non-grade human-faced moth in order to advance it to low-grade, and then have the thousand-hand centipede devour it. In this way, small fish would eat shrimp, and big fish would eat small fish, completing a new evolutionary process. To achieve this, Su Jie must gain complete control over a region. After all, if the poison insects from the Tianyuan world were brought to Blue Star and discovered, Su Jie would inevitably become the focus of everyone's attention, placed under scrutiny by various powers and countries. In Hua country, such undertakings by Su Jie would certainly not be feasible. The number of poisonous insects he dealt with was too great, making it very easy to arouse curiosity and investigation from others. If a checkup occurred, the truth would be uncovered. However, Chan country was entirely different. The national machinery here was weak. Controlling one region meant it was essentially independent, allowing for far greater secrecy. Leaving the thousand-hand centipede in the warehouse to continue feeding, Su Jie left and drove back to Jekka Company's residence. Just as he entered, he saw Lu Yingying walking towards him, brimming with joy. "Su Jie, we've succeeded." She wrapped her arms around Su Jie's neck, jumping and shouting happily. "Stop, stop, stop, what's going on?" Su Jie patted the girl's buttocks, signaling her to be mindful of her image. "Hee, Manager Liang is back, and he brings good news." Lu Yingying's pretty face turned red with a hint of guilt. She looked around and sighed in relief when she noticed that no employees were paying attention. As soon as Su Jie heard this, he knew what it was about. Walking into the company's office, indeed, he saw Liang Lianjuan's figure. "Mission accomplished, Mr. Su. Our furniture has successfully penetrated the market." The moment he saw Su Jie, Liang Lianjuan immediately stood up to report, his eyes brimming with joy. "Let's hear the details." Su Jie asked Lu Yingying to pour some tea, and he sat opposite Liang Lianjuan. "Yes." Liang Lianjuan cleared his throat and began. "After we transported the batch of timber back to the factory, I immediately arranged for staff to work overtime on the design and construction. We rushed the production of a batch of furniture. Then I contacted some wealthy businessmen I knew from before and organized a small furniture sale. Our furniture was an instant hit as soon as it was showcased, with many pieces being bought on the spot by those businessmen. Most of their friends are also wealthy, and the remaining furniture was sold the next day. And as the news spread by word of mouth, many other wealthy people came to place deposits for custom-made high-end furniture at Tianyuan Home. The first batch of payments and deposits we received totaled up to 500 million yuan. We estimate that once all the timber is sold, we can recover funds between 4.5 and 5 billion yuan. Suppressing his excitement, Liang Lianjuan went through Tianyuan Home's progress one by one. The high-end furniture market in Hua country has always been in short supply, and Tianyuan Home easily carved out the most delicious slice of the market pie for itself with those top-quality timbers. Given the nature of wealthy people in Hua country, faced with high-end furniture that can demonstrate their taste and wealth, they couldn't help but be tempted. That's why the discovery of Tianyuan Home's high-end furniture sparked such a frenzy of purchasing. Su Jie's eyelids twitched when he heard the number 500 million. It's no wonder he's overcome with emotion. Just a year ago, he was an ordinary person who had just graduated and couldn't even find a job, and now he controls a cash flow of hundreds of millions and has goods worth tens of billions under his command. Even with mental preparation, Su Jie still felt excited. "Haha, Manager Liang. I really didn't misjudge you. I won't say anything else, but tonight, you must stay for a good drink. And rest assured, you won't be shortchanged on your bonus either." I dare not. It's all thanks to Mr. Su's batch of timber. Otherwise, with all the ability in the world, I couldn't have sold it for that price." Liang Lianjuan humbly waved his hands in declination, speaking the truth. The great success of Tianyuan Home lies in the extremely high quality of the timber. Su Jie's words made him blush with modesty. "Don't be humble, Manager Liang. With such great news, how can we not celebrate with a drink? Then I shall accompany Mr. Su for a couple of drinks." Liang Lianjuan, feeling valued by Su Jie, was filled with the sentiment that one would die for a confidant. After talking with Liang Lianjuan for a while and noticing that he was somewhat tired from catching a ride over, Su Jie told him to go and rest. Ying notified Jekka Biology to start the second plan. It's time for our Jekka company to expand. Su Jie instructed Lu Ying. Previously, due to a shortage of funds, their insect catching plan was only carried out in a dozen villages and towns. Now that the funds were in place, Su Jie naturally didn't want to play small anymore. He planned to completely cover the entire surrounding area of Mande City. Following Su Jie's order, Jekka Company received its directives, and one after another, Jekka employees headed in all directions, expanding the insect catching plan to the entire Mande City region, especially in over 100 rural townships and villages. Those farmers with meager incomes celebrated with their families, joining the bug-catching team with great enthusiasm. For a time, streams of people could be seen wandering through the mountains and fields everywhere in the Mande City region. All of these people were out to catch poisonous insects and snakes to sell to Jekka Company. At each sales station set up by Jekka Company, long lines formed at the door, with a steady flow of people from morning till night, bringing newly captured poison insects to sell. The sudden surge in the number of insects was too much for the 1,000-hand centipede to handle at once, so huge plots of land and warehouses were purchased. Su Jie specifically called for Chun Yaoguang from Hua Country, along with a group of breeding experts, to transform these warehouses into insect breeding farms, allowing more people to work for Jekka Company. It wasn't just the countryside. Even a large number of city residents in Mande City joined the bug-catching team, because the income from catching insects was far more than the paltry wages earned from their jobs. On the Jekka Company's side, the insect catching plan was unfolding with great fanfare, while the local rent-seeking class merely saw it as a joke. In their view, Jekka Company was simply squandering money and would soon run out of resources and quiet down. But they waited, and 10 days went by. Jekka Company was still thriving. 20 days passed, and Jekka Company's purchasing stations were still bustling with people every day. A month went by, and Jekka Company's expansion continued, with the number of employees recruited even breaking through to 2,500. Hundreds of thousands of people from the Mande region were working for Jekka Company, catching insects for it. Even facing an overwhelming number of people, and to protect the local insect resources due to the decrease in the number of poison insects brought about by the catching, Jekka Company thoughtfully proposed a measure of breeding insects with people's help. They distributed poison insects to the local populace for free and taught them artificial breeding, shouting powerful slogans like, "Prosper through insect breeding," "Stride toward well-being," "Start with insects," "Want to get rich, let Jekka lead the way," and so on. Under this sky-high propaganda and wealth offensive, almost every last labor force in the Mande City region was swept into the insect-catching craze triggered by Jekka. Now, the rent-seeking elites in the Mande City region couldn't sit still anymore, because people no longer wanted to work for them and only wanted to run to Jekka Company. In front of the Jekka Company headquarters building, a jeep drove up, followed by 2 military vehicles from which a group of soldiers in green military uniforms, holding AKs, jumped out swiftly. A well-dressed officer in a crisp military uniform and shiny leather shoes stepped out of the jeep, surrounded by a group of soldiers, and strutted into Jekka Company. The employees inside the building were astonished, unclear what was happening. It was not until they saw the identity of the leading officer that many employees' complexions changed, recognizing who he was, because this face was all too famous in the Mande region. This man was Lu Wenba, the actual ruler of Mande United Army. To many, he was known as General Lu. Born into one of the 3 major families, the Lu family, he commanded a force of over 1,000 in the Mande United Army, armed with a large stockpile of firearms and ammunition, light and heavy machine guns, mortars, rocket launchers, and managed businesses such as taxation, casinos, brothels, entertainment complexes, opium, fraud, and organ trading. He was the undisputed local warlord of the Mande region. In the Mande region, the most sensational thing Lu Wenba did was that when a large-scale escape incident occurred in a phone scam park under his name, he dispatched troops to surround and suppress the escapees, killing and injuring countless people, with half a street drenched in blood. Wu Wenba pointed to an employee and said, "Where's the manager here?" "The boss. The boss has gone out to the countryside to inspect the insect breeding farms." The employee pointed out shivered. explaining in a trembling voice. Are you playing me? Wu Wenba's mouth twisted into a sinister smile, and without a word, he pulled out his pistol from his waist and pulled the trigger. Bang! The employee who was questioned was shot in the stomach, blood gushing out and staining his clothes red as he fell to the ground writhing in pain. You tell me, where's your boss? Pointing at another employee, Wu Wenba continued to inquire with an arrogant air, completely indifferent to the fact that he had just fired a gun in public. He really went down to the countryside. I don't know where the boss is. Seeing the fate of the previous unlucky one, the second employee was almost in tears. The other employees didn't dare to back him up, all of them trembling, as the AKs of the other soldiers were also aimed at them. Wu Wenba snorted coldly, knowing that his timing wasn't the best, and that the employees didn't have the guts to lie to him. Tell your boss that when he comes back, he must visit my barracks. From now on, your JECA company must pay an 80% special business tax. And if you don't pay, tell him the consequences of offending me here as a Chinese. After saying that, Wu Wenba aimed the gun at the ceiling and emptied a whole clip of bullets. Then, with a grand wave, he turned and left with his men. It wasn't until Wu Wenba was far away that the employees frantically helped the wounded man up and rushed him to the hospital for treatment. As for calling the police, no one did such a thing. After all, the police station was just Wu Wenba's lapdog, and what dog would dare manage its owner? Laji Village. Su Jie was inspecting a local breeding farm and Chen Yaoguang was by his side. Mr. Su, we have helped the villagers rebuild the centipede and scorpion farms according to local conditions. The tropical climate and temperature here are ideal for the growth of these poisonous insects. As long as no serious diseases occur, breeding can be carried out with ease. Chen Yaoguang pointed to a small-scale farm, which was transformed from an abandoned mud house. Between the cracks of the bricks and broken tiles, centipedes were seen crawling in and out. A dark-skinned young man was laboring, scattering mealworms inside as food for the centipedes. Su Jie nodded and stepped closer, asking the dark-skinned young man, "What's your name?" "This is our boss from JECA Company, Mr. Su." Chen Yaoguang reminded the young man, as he often went down to the countryside to teach villagers breeding techniques, and many recognized him. "My name is Miao Luan. Are you the big boss of JECA Company?" Hearing Chen Yaoguang's words, Miao Luan trembled all over, excited to come forward and shake hands but was too wary to do so. Genuine as can be. "May I ask, are you satisfied with your current life?" Su Jie took the initiative to move closer, pat him on the shoulder, and asked with a kind smile. "Satisfied? I am of course satisfied. Ever since JECA Company came here, the money I earned from catching insects has cured my mother's illness, and I was able to send my sister back to school. Now my family also has shares in the local poisonous insect farm. This is the life I've dreamed of day and night." Miao Luan's voice was filled with passion as he recounted the events that had taken place in his life. Nearby, villagers who were working and heard that the boss of JECA Company came over crowded around, expressing their profound gratitude all at once. Mr. Su responded with a smile to each of their thanks when Lu Yingying rushed over in a panic and shouted to him, "Mr. Su, something has happened. The Monday United Army attacked our company headquarters this morning, injuring one of our employees with gunfire. General Lu Wenba of the Monday United Army even demanded that you go see him at the military camp." Lu Yingying quickly reviewed the incident at JECA Company. From her hurried tone, her anxiety was unmistakable. After more than a month of doing business in Monday City, who hadn't heard of the notorious Monday United Army and Lu Wenba? "He wants me to see him, interesting." After listening to Lu Yingying's account, Su Jie appeared quite calm. "Su Jie, that warlord intends to take our industry. They don't seem like they'll let this go easily." Seeing Su Jie still smiling, Lu Yingying thought he didn't grasp the seriousness of the situation. "I know." Su Jie nodded, responding coolly. "After all, we've touched their interests, so I'm not at all surprised by this reaction." "Lu Wenba, Boss Su, Lu Wenba is causing you trouble." Miao Luan, who stood by, overheard Lu Yingying due to his proximity, his eyes turning fierce. Su Jie looked at him and asked, "You have a grudge against him?" "Not just me, many people hold a grudge against him. His cultivation of opium has harmed so many. He controls the grain companies in the city too, selling fertilizer and pesticide at high prices every year, and buys grain at prices so low that we can't make any money all year, sometimes even at a loss." Grinding his teeth, Miao Luan shouted to the surrounding villagers, "Everyone, Jekka Company is about to be destroyed by that bastard Lu Wenba. We absolutely can't sit by and do nothing." "What, they're going to destroy Jekka Company?" "No, absolutely not. We need to sell the bugs. We can't let that bastard ruin a good thing." "But that's Lu Wenba, he has the army. What can we do?" At his words, many nearby villagers responded in unison, though some were fearful, bowing their heads, not daring to speak, or quietly hiding back in their homes. "See, the people's hearts are with us." Su Jie smiled at Lu Yingying. Maybe these villagers were only standing up for the promise of Jekka Company, for the life improvement that the annual insect buying contract brought. But their willingness to stand up at this moment showed the weight Jekka Company held in their hearts, and that they were willing to exert effort on its behalf. Su Jie was already very gratified. "I see everyone's sentiment. Those interested can join the newly established security department of Jekka Company to protect Jekka Company from the harm of law offenders." Seeing the public sentiment, Su Jie announced the news. "The security department, can we sign up to join now?" The speaker was still Miao Luan. His support for Jekka Company was genuine. Without Jekka Company, his mother would still be bedridden, and it would be impossible for his sister to go to school to study, so he was the last one who wanted to see Jekka Company destroyed. Quite a few villagers were in the same situation as Miao Luan, with Jekka Company having brought them a new life, so they echoed in agreement one after another. "Yingying, go arrange for people to get ready for registration. Write down everyone who signs up," Su Jie ordered before he walked onto a platform, looked around, and began. "Think about what this land has brought you. Aside from poverty and chaos, the rulers here only need you to be a honest toiling machine, toiling for their glory and wealth, selling your sweat and blood. Now, seeing Jekka Company leading you to prosperity, they have become anxious, afraid, terrified, afraid that you people will no longer obey their commands, no longer toil obediently to make money for them." Su Jie slowly raised his right hand, his voice calm but laced with a seductive power. "Think about your past wages, 300 to 400 Hua Yuan a month, living hand to mouth. How many of you fell ill and couldn't afford to see a doctor? How many children couldn't recognize a single character? And the dilapidated mud houses you lived in. Now look at the present. Since Jekka Company arrived, we've built roads for your village, erected a schoolhouse, and increased your incomes several-fold. Just last week, we even brought doctors to the countryside to examine and treat the villagers for free." Su Jie's tone grew increasingly intense, and the genuine emotion in his gaze made many villagers reflect on their past and feel even more grateful for Jekka Company's goodness. "I am a Chinese, not long in Monday City, but I've heard of Lu Wenba's reputation. This warlord monopolizes local transportation and electricity, operates illegal mining, gambling, brothels, opium trade, and so forth. Your poverty is brought on by him. And Jekka Company, which leads you towards wealth, naturally becomes a thorn in their side. Some may ask, you're just a Chinese. What does this have to do with you? I'll tell you, it's because I've suffered poverty and hardship too, just like you have all experienced brutal autocratic rule. I empathize with you, and that is why I've traveled thousands of miles to establish Jekka Company here, doing everything to lead you all out of poverty. Now, there are people who don't want you to live a good life, who want to destroy everything you have. You tell me, what should we do? The final question was delivered in a roar. Kill them. If Jekka Company is driven away, won't we just have to live a hard life like before? Anyone who dares touch Jekka Company, I'll fight them to the end. My family has 5 children, now able to eat their fill, all thanks to Jekka Company. If Jekka Company is gone, who will feed my children? The villagers were stirred by Su Jie's words and immediately became agitated, wielding sickles and hoes. Some even brought homemade shotguns from their homes, and shouts rose one after another. Lu Yingying's body trembled slightly. Seeing the villagers around her stirred up, their faces so unfamiliar. Pairs of blood-red eyes, faces distorted in anger. It was a scene she had never witnessed before. Chen Yaoguang took a sharp intake of breath. What he had only read about in history books was unfolding before him. He couldn't help fearing that Su Jie's actions might trigger a major upheaval in Mande City. Su Jie saw the heated scene below, and a smile curled the edges of his mouth. Chan country itself was a poor and chaotic nation, where civil wars had never ceased since its inception, and news of warring warlords was a constant. Such a fragile country, especially in the areas surrounding Mande City, where Lu Wenbo held sway over most money-making ventures and operated various illegal businesses, exploiting the local poor farmers. This also caused particularly intense class conflicts in the area that needed only a spark to explode. Jekka Company was the key that ignited this powder keg. People, once they have experienced better things, cannot accept a return to a past of poverty and backwardness. The contrast is too painful to bear. Having experienced Lu Wenbo's rule and now Jekka Company's better life, it goes without saying whom the villagers would choose. Seeing the villagers growing more and more excited, Su Jie dropped his final bombshell and announced the benefits of joining the security department. Those who now wish to sign up for the security department, come here to the right-hand side to sign your name, and after screening, you can become a member of the Jekka Security Department. At the same time, I solemnly declare that anyone who joins the security department, if a family member falls ill, will receive medical coverage from Jekka Company. Children can attend school for free and enjoy a monthly salary of 4,000 Hua Yuan. If you are injured in combat assigned by the security department, the company will subsidize your salary, and in the event of death, in addition to substantial subsidies, your family will be taken care of by Jekka Company. We will see to the elderly until their last moments and raise the children. The sole purpose of establishing the security department is to protect the employees and property of Jekka Company and to combat all organizations and forces that seek to harm Jekka Company, including the Mande United Army I mentioned earlier. Are you willing to join? Upon hearing this, the villagers, previously fueled simply by enthusiasm, became even more excited. Such a salary was nearly 10 times what they used to earn. With the other benefits and treatments added, even those villagers who initially wanted to back out were now eagerly signing up. Even if it meant serving in the military for the Chan country government, it couldn't compare to these terms. It's just risking our lives, after all. Since they had nothing to lose and there was money involved, who would be afraid? Suddenly, the registration spot almost burst with the crowd of villagers. Queuing up were not only young men but also middle-aged uncles and women in their 40s and 50s. In terms of warfare, the Chan country has always had a fierce culture. Being a multi-ethnic country, the conflicts among different ethnic groups over so many years have long embedded warfare into their bones. So there was no psychological burden or fear whatsoever. Don't be nervous. Now it's our turn to control Mande City. It's others who should be afraid. Su Jie stepped down from the stage and, noticing the fear in Lu Yingying's heart, naturally reassured her. Are we going too far with this? Lu Yingying didn't doubt Su Jie's ability, but she was still struggling to adjust to the fact that Jekka Company, which she thought was just a regular business, was now taking on the major task of overthrowing the local warlord's rule. Everyone else wants to plunder our assets. Are we not allowed to fight back? Su Jie patted Lu Yingying on the shoulder and chuckled. Look at these villagers, enthusiastic about joining our Jekka security department. This already proves we are on the right path. Lu Yingying hesitated for a while, finally nodding slowly. Even if she wanted to oppose it now, it was already impossible. Su Jie's will was not something she could influence. Su Jie, you are right. Biting her lip, Lu Yingying made up her mind. You will see my success, and soon, this place will become Jekka Company's territory, to take and to rule as we see fit. Touching Lu Yingying's delicate face, Su Jie did not hide his ambition for the Mande City area. Watching Su Jie's confident and ambitiously lit eyes, Lu Yingying felt her heartbeat quicken unexpectedly, finding the man before her even more charismatic. Oh! After Jekka Company announced the establishment of the security department, within just 3 days, It had swept through hundreds of villages and towns around Mande City. Previously, JECA employees who bought poison insect in the countryside transformed overnight into recruitment officers, using loudspeakers to canvass the streets and alleys. Hearing the news, applicants to join flowed in continuously, and every recruitment station in the townships was packed with villagers. After 3 days of screening, 8,000 young and able individuals officially became employees of the security department, and this was the result of a stringent selection process. If they were let loose, the number would have doubled. The rapid actions of JECA Company were too swift. Before the Mande United Army could react, the JECA Security Department had already been established. And right after its establishment, the newly formed JECA Security Department, after brief training, received orders to eradicate the long-standing cancer of the Mande United Army in Mande City. Suddenly, on the muddy roads leading to Mande City from various villages, old tractors, vans, and three-wheeled vehicles were crammed with people. Members of the JECA Security Department, dressed in blue uniforms and armed with spears, carrying homemade guns, and holding detonators, sat in the dump beds of tractors, forming long lines converging from all directions toward Mande City. In front of a police station in Mande City, a few policemen were stunned, watching as the endless, mighty procession of tractors approached. The black smoke spewing from the tractors lingered and rose, nearly covering half the sky. From a distance, it looked like a steel torrent made up of tanks. What's going on? What are they trying to do? Are they staging a rebellion? A policeman, full of confusion and disbelief, wondered. Yet before he could figure it out, a volley of gunshots rang out. Bang, bang, bang. The range and accuracy of the homemade guns were too poor. The security members in the dump beds of the tractors only aimed roughly, and the bullets flew off to who knows where. Unfortunately, these policemen were not elite forces. On the contrary, they indulged in eating, drinking, gambling, and prostitution on ordinary days and were only placeholders. At the critical moment of life-and-death combat, they simply lacked the courage to draw their guns. Don't shoot! Don't shoot! Don't kill us! We surrender, we surrender. A group of policemen lay trembling on the ground, offering no resistance until the barrier was broken through, and a large number of JECA security members disarmed them. This is for the times you bullied people. A group of JECA security members grabbed the policemen, some of whom had previously been bullied and extorted. Naturally, it was time for a beating, which left the policemen howling like ghosts and wolves. After this minor episode, the vast army of the security department marched mightily into Mande City. The residents of the city were equally baffled, then saw with their own eyes, under the guidance of some JECA employees, how the security members coordinated and stormed into gambling dens, brothels, opium factories, fraud parks, and several mansions of the powerful and rich. All of these were the properties of Wenbo, as well as those officials in cahoots with him. Having dominated Mande City for many years, Wenbo had become something akin to an emperor. The number of people colluding with him in Mande City was countless, and these businesses had been expanded and strengthened by him, turning into money trees sustaining the Mande United Army. There weren't many people guarding these properties, and the weaponry was outdated with few firearms. For Wenbo saw himself as the emperor of Mande City, wondering who would dare to provoke him. Therefore, when members of the security department arrived, those fraudsters and bouncers in the gambling dens were flabbergasted by the sheer number and fierce onslaught of the JECA security department. Even though the JECA security members were armed only with homemade and hunting rifles, and even though they were also a disorganized crowd, the two sides' ineffectual combat still easily overwhelmed and even directly led to surrenders from the majority. In just a few short hours, Mande City had been completely taken over by the security department. Besides Wenbo's enterprises, other strategic locations such as the local power station, government buildings, TV stations, airports, and granaries were also seized. The number of various captured individuals, mostly Wenbo's henchmen and colluding officials, tallied up to 700 or 800 people. And only by then did Wenbo, stationed far away in the military barracks, receive the news and explode in fury. 50 kilometers southwest of Mande City, there was a military camp dotted with watchtowers, combat readiness warehouses, barracks, and drill grounds, where soldiers patrolled back and forth. This was the headquarters of the Mande United Army, with thousands of soldiers stationed here. These troops, cultivated with financial support from drug trafficking, casinos, scam parks, brothels, and such, were Lu Wenba's greatest asset and the capital that allowed him to dominate the Mande region. At this moment, inside a lavishly decorated villa in the military camp, Lu Wenba clenched the phone tightly and roared, "You can't even handle a bunch of farmers, useless. All of you are useless. What's the point of having you?" On the other end of the phone was the Mande City mayor, who was frantically reporting the unrest that had occurred in Mande City to him. Finding out his large swathes of industry had been occupied and destroyed by Jekka Company's security department, the warlord leader was beyond furious and ignored the calls for help on the phone, abruptly smashing the handset down. "Bring me someone, immediately order a full military mobilization, prepare the weapons and ammunition, and follow me into the city to suppress the unrest. Whoever sees Jekka Company's people, show no mercy and kill them all." Lu Wenba summoned his aide-de-camp and issued the murderous command. "Yes, General. I will mobilize the troops right now." Seeing that Lu Wenba was in a bad mood, the aide-de-camp dared not irritate him further and hastily left to carry out the orders. Soon, the entire camp was filled with rallying calls and assembly shouts as squads of soldiers ran out of the barracks and gathered on the drill ground. Lu Wenba donned a general's uniform adorned with medals, strapped a command saber to his waist, and stepped onto the command platform at the front of the drill ground. Standing in front of the microphone, he shouted loudly, "My children, today Mande City has experienced a premeditated, vicious unrest. Hired thugs from Jekka Company have attacked Mande City, taking over and destroying our casinos, brothels, and scam parks, and they have even claimed they will wipe out our Mande United Army." His voice echoed across the field through the microphone, and the soldiers in green uniforms changed their expressions slightly, their gazes becoming particularly fierce. "You joined the Mande United Army. The funds that let you live comfortably all came from my industries in Mande City. Jekka Company is cutting off our roots. Can we let them go?" "No!" A roar like a mountain tsunami came back as thousands of soldiers, holding their guns, responded to Lu Wenba with fury against Jekka Company. As soldiers of the Mande United Army, they clearly knew what they were doing and never hesitated to follow the warlord in committing crimes. As long as they could make money and grow rich, they were more than willing, even if it meant murder and evil deeds. Jekka Company, a despicable and shameless corporation, daring to unite with those mud-legged farmers to overthrow my rule. Today we will tell them that no matter how capable Jekka Company is, only we, the Mande United Army, rule in Mande City. My children, take up your long spears and steel knives, follow me into Mande City, and exterminate everyone from Jekka Company. Lu Wenba revealed a cruel smile as he loudly announced the mobilization command for war. "Kill, kill, kill them all." The soldiers stood up thunderously, slung their steel guns over their shoulders, and headed orderly towards the military trucks. A few armored fighting vehicles started to move, and overhead a military helicopter hovered. These were all of Lu Wenba's assets. Jekka Company really think it's still ancient times, eh? Wanting to get by with just a bunch of mud-legged farmers. Looking at the mighty exodus of his own army, Lu Wenba felt a surge of pride. What nonsense Jekka Company was, it was just relying on a group of mud-legged farmers, and they hardly had any decent guns. Once his army arrived, they would be able to crush them effortlessly. Just as the vanguard of the army had left the camp, heading towards Mande City, the leading military truck suddenly slowed down and stopped, causing the following convoy to come to a halt as well. "What's the matter?" Sitting in the jeep, Lu Wenba asked dissatisfiedly as the staff officer hung up the communicator and said in astonishment, "General, there's someone blocking the way ahead, who also claims to be the boss of Jekka Company and wants to come see you." "What, you heard that right?" Lu Wenba was equally stunned when he heard this and almost thought he had heard wrong. He hadn't gone looking for trouble with Jekka Company, yet their boss dared to come and find him alone. Was he not afraid of death? "General, the person claims to be Su Jie, which is indeed the name of Jekka Company's boss. The staff officer affirmed, his face filled with surprise. If they could capture the big boss of Jekka Company first, then they would have won more than half of this battle. Haha, such a fool. Have him brought to me. I want to see what he looks like, daring to provoke our Monday United Army. Lu Wenba's lips curled into an icy smile. If not for Jekka Company, he wouldn't have faced such heavy losses, and behind it all, the mastermind Su Jie. He wished nothing more than to tear him limb from limb. At this moment, in front of the army, Su Jie stood alone with his arms crossed, his gaze fixed on this military force. Most of the soldiers were marching on foot, with nothing more than an AK for their personal equipment. The entire force's firepower consisted of just a few dozen vehicles, including several armored infantry vehicles and one armed helicopter. Quite shabby. They earn so much money but don't even bother to equip the troops with better gear, spending it all on their own pleasures. Su Jie shook his head, thinking about the news he had heard. It was said that Lu Wenba enjoyed his luxuries, having not only a private plane but also many mansions and luxurious cars around the world. Most of the money he earned through illegal means was spent on his own pleasures. While Su Jie was observing the troops, a dozen armed soldiers surrounded him, their eyes mocking and indifferent as they looked at Su Jie. He's the boss of Jekka Company, so young. It's going to be so much fun to torture him. I want to see him kneeling and begging for mercy. I heard he's Chinese. He mustn't think we'd reason with him, daring to come here all by himself. Haha. I love killing Chinese the most. When I was dispatched to guard the scam zone, those Chinese were so much fun. When they first arrived, they all clamored to go home. But after we chopped their hands, cut their feet and threw them into watery dungeons, they all became as meek and compliant as could be. The soldiers talked about Su Jie without any restraint, laughing mockingly from time to time. The general said to capture him and bring him over. A platoon leader put down the walkie-talkie. Having received the order, he waved his hand and the soldiers immediately rushed forward to apprehend Su Jie and take him to Lu Wenba. Su Jie loosened his shoulders and said with a light chuckle, "No need for you to bother. I will go see him myself." As soon as his voice fell, the soldiers caught a glimpse of a flash of silver light out of the corners of their eyes, followed by a pain in their necks, their vision spinning, and they lost consciousness. The soldiers who had surrounded Su Jie, in just an instant, had their necks sliced through, their heads rolling to the feet of Su Jie. Buzz buzz. The white-bone sky-slaying sword hovered in front of Su Jie, blood dripping off of its blade as if the recent killings were nothing but an illusion. The pupils of the Monday United Army soldiers violently shook, mouths agape, upon seeing Su Jie standing there with a strange flying sword whirling before him, severing the necks of a dozen comrades in an instant. This eerie and terrifying sight sent a cold fear through many of the soldiers, and various superstitious legends came flooding back into their minds. Su Jie gently stroked the white-bone sky-slaying sword and chuckled, "Go on, kill them all." Whoosh! The white-bone sky-slaying sword trembled and sped away, turning into a silver line of death, cutting the necks of soldiers who were still in a daze. The speed of the flying sword was simply too fast to catch with the naked eye of a common man. Wherever the flying sword passed, many soldiers didn't have time to react before their heads tumbled off their necks with a thud. A thick scent of blood spread quickly. Within a mere 10 seconds, a large number of soldiers lay dead under the white-bone sky-slaying sword. Fire, fire at that monster. Some soldiers finally shouted as a reminder. Some aimed their guns at Su Jie, while others tried to shoot the white-bone sky-slaying sword. The bullets aimed at the white-bone sky-slaying sword all missed their target, while the bullets shot at Su Jie were met with the thousand-hand centipede emerging from his sleeve, acting as a flesh shield in front of him. The bullets pinged off the insect shell, leaving only white marks. These troops, fed with poisonous sustenance, were quite fierce upon seeing bullets ineffective. Some soldiers shouldered rocket launchers, aiming at the thousand-hand centipede and pulling the trigger. Boom! The fireball from the rocket made the thousand-hand centipede cry out twice as its shell cracked a bit. On a nearby armored vehicle, the heavy machine gun revolved, spitting out a 2-meter-long tongue of flame. A 30mm armor-piercing incendiary bullet shot forth, penetrating the shell of the thousand-hand centipede, and green insect blood gushed out. Luckily, the thousand-hand centipede had a strong regenerative ability. The injured parts turned into small centipedes and fell off, with the wound healing quickly. It's working. It's afraid of rocket launchers and machine guns. Fire and blow it up. The soldiers excitedly shouted, seeing hope as more heavy weapons focused their fire. It seems I still can't withstand heavy firepower after all, Su Jie mused after testing the defense capabilities of the thousand-hand centipede against ordinary heavy firepower. If they were to use tank armor-piercing bullets or missiles, the current stage of the thousand-hand centipede would definitely not be able to withstand them. Forget it. Let's finish them off first. Having figured out the defensive limits of the thousand-hand centipede against modern heavy firepower, Su Jie's thoughts changed in an instant, and he operated the green rainbow sword technique with full power. The white-bone sky-slaying sword whistled through the air, its flying speed increasing dramatically. A few soldiers carrying rocket launchers only saw a blur before they were cut in half by the flying sword. The momentum of the flying sword didn't wane, piercing through the armor of an armored vehicle, killing everyone inside before drilling out the top. Suddenly, an explosive roar came from the sky. A missile flew in from a distance, landing where the white-bone sky-slaying sword had been, igniting a massive fireball. The nearby soldiers were not spared either. A huge blast wave swept over them, knocking down many, and the fierce explosion left the entire battlefield eerily silent. Then, noise returned, and the white-bone sky-slaying sword flew out of the smoke unscathed, heading towards the attack helicopter that had attacked it. The approaching attack helicopter had just opened its rocket pod when it saw the silver light approaching in a flash, cleaving off the propellers in midair. Crash, crash. The helicopter's out of control. The two pilots were terrified, frantically pulling at the control stick, trying to make the helicopter auto-rotate and land. But all their efforts were in vain. The helicopter, spinning erratically at high speed, flung them around the cockpit, and eventually, it lost all control and exploded into a ball of fire on the ground. After dealing with several major threats, the white-bone sky-slaying sword was unconstrained. Military vehicles were pierced by the flying sword, blood flowing freely and staining the earth red. The soldiers armed with light weapons met an even more tragic fate. Wherever the flying sword passed, whether the soldiers stood or lay down, they were bisected at the waist. Those who were not immediately dead could only drag their bisected bodies across the ground, their continuous screams of agony piercing the heart with fear. My waist is broken. Someone save me. Woo! That guy's not human. I want to go home. I want to go home. We've angered the gods. This is their punishment for us. Everyone kneel and pray with me for the forgiveness of the divine. The morale of the Mande United Army suddenly collapsed. As the saying goes, an army's defeat is like a landslide. The Mande United Army, previously courageous enough to resist, screamed in terror under the onslaught of the flying sword. All thoughts of resistance dissipated as they dropped their weapons and scattered in all directions. Patting the thousand-hand centipede, Su Jie issued his command calmly. Don't let a single one escape. Su Jie was determined not to let them go. Only the dead could keep secrets, and all eyewitnesses had to be completely eliminated today. The thousand-hand centipede screeched, and pale corpse hands detached from its body, chasing after the fleeing soldiers. The corpse hands latched onto their bodies and twisted their necks. At the same time, soldiers were accurately slain by the flying sword, and even their attempts to throw smoke grenades to disrupt its vision were futile. Every minute, every second, soldiers died. The entire Mande United Army turned into a slaughterhouse, disappearing at a terrifying speed. Lu Wenba, who was waiting for Su Jie to be captured, initially didn't take the gunfire seriously, thinking it was just some people Su Jie had brought to resist. But then the continuous loud explosions, and his eyewitness of his own armed helicopters falling and exploding, changed everything. What's happening? What exactly is happening? Lu Wenba grabbed a staff officer, eager for an answer. Report, General. The soldiers say they encountered a non-human. The boss of Jekka Company is... He's a monster. The staff officer stuttered his response and was immediately slapped. I've got no time for your jokes right now. Is it the security department from Jekka Company that has come? He must have gotten his hands on some military hardware. Lu Wenba's face twisted savagely. He simply couldn't believe the staff officer's tall tale. No sane person would. He was convinced that Jekka Company must have secretly bought military hardware and armed those country bumpkins, launching an attack on his Monde United Army. Click! Just as Lu Wenba was thinking this, he suddenly felt the sky darken as if something was blocking the sunlight. When Lu Wenba looked up, he saw a sight that he would never forget. A gigantic centipede, nearly 10 meters long and unspeakably ferocious and terrifying, loomed above his head. Its cold, emotionless insect eyes moved, causing all the hairs on his body to stand on end and his breathing to halt. Oh, if it isn't General Lu. I'm the boss of Jekka Company. You wanted me to come see you, right? I don't think I'm late. Su Jie stood atop the thousand-hand centipede, looking down at Lu Wenba with a genial smile. If one could ignore the burning military vehicles behind Su Jie, the scattered limbs and arms, and the soldiers who were still screaming in agony as they lay dying, then that smile could indeed be described as harmless to humans and animals. Having witnessed Su Jie's bizarre and terrifying figure with his own eyes, Lu Wenba finally understood why his staff had reported to him in such a manner. Because the boss of Jekka Company was really a non-human. Why aren't you talking? Su Jie jumped down from the back of the thousand-hand centipede and walked step by step in front of Lu Wenba. You, what exactly are you? Lu Wenba's pupils shrank to the size of a needlepoint. The existence of Su Jie shattered his worldview. How could such supernatural powers exist in this world? Could it be that the ghosts, deities, and devils of legend were all real, and he had been kept in the dark and deceived his entire life? I'm just an ordinary businessman. Su Jie approached Lu Wenba with an ever-growing smile on his face.
Lu Wenba.
Don't come any closer. I told you not to come any closer. Shivering, Lu Wenba drew the gold-plated handgun from his waist. His eyes filled with fear as he pointed the gun at Su Jie, yet it offered him no sense of security. TSK, it was you who called me here to meet, and now you're telling me not to come closer. Is there something wrong with your brain? Su Jie cracked a smile, and in the blink of an eye, the gold handgun was in his hands. Nice taste. I'll add it to my collection. After fiddling with it for a moment, Su Jie tossed it into his storage bag. And Lu Wenba had lost all his courage and collapsed on the ground, powerless, no longer maintaining the air of a warlord who once commanded the winds and clouds. I am from the Wu family, one of the 3 major families. If you dare kill me, my family will never let you off. Faced with such an inhuman monster, he could only invoke the name of his backer now, hoping to scare Su Jie away. In Chan country, apart from the government army, various warlords stood in great numbers, and the 3 major families, the Wu, Bai, and Lu families, controlled a large part of the economic and political resources of Chan country. They could influence certain political elections behind the scenes and held significant sway in the country. Lu Wenba was a scion of the Wu family, one of these 3 major families. Upon hearing this, Su Jie shook his head repeatedly. Kill you? No, you can't die yet. Lu Wenba's face brightened, thinking his family's influence had intimidated the other party. Let me go quickly, or else my family. Killing you now would be a loss. There's nothing more intimidating than an execution on the spot. Many people want to see you executed with their own eyes. Lu Wenba's voice stopped abruptly. How could he not understand Su Jie's intentions? This was a demonstration to kill the chicken to warn the monkeys. Su Jie squatted down, casually picked up a bayonet, and shattered Lu Wenba's tongue to prevent him from speaking out of turn. Ignoring the other's screams, he threw him onto the jeep. At the same time, the pale corpse hands of the thousand-hand centipede had dealt with the last of the fleeing soldiers. On Su Jie's command, they began digging a mass grave to bury all the corpses. The aftermath of the battlefield could be handled by the security department to clean up, collecting useful firearms and equipment. The barracks of the Mande United Army would be just right for the newly established headquarters of the Jekka Security Department. After settling all this, Su Jie got into the jeep and headed back to Mande City. Mande City at the central square. A large crowd of citizens had gathered because staff from Jekka Company had been spreading word all over the city about the downfall of the Mande United Army and the capture of Lu Wenba, who was to be publicly tried and executed for his crimes. Such news naturally drew the attention of the public. When the time reached 3 p.m., a squad from Jekka Security brought the limp Lu Wenba to the square. At that moment, the entire square erupted. Mande City had suffered under Lu Wenba's misdeeds for far too long. During his years as a warlord, his brutal and greedy actions had caused public outrage, and now seeing him dragged along like a dead dog naturally thrilled the crowd, who applauded and cheered with glee. Meanwhile, near the square, Su Jie was amiably patting the shoulder of a middle-aged man. This was the newly appointed mayor, previously the deputy mayor of Mande City, and Sangshan, who spoke, "Mayorin, it's your turn to go on stage. You should know what to say, right?" "Understood, Mr. Su. Please be assured, I will absolutely follow your instructions." As the mayor, and Sangshan was nodding and bowing to Su Jie, almost as if he were ready to cut open his chest and show his loyalty. Because Sangshan was acutely aware of how he got his position, and he knew that if the other party wished, they could dismiss him at any time and replace him with another puppet to serve as mayor. "Go ahead." Su Jie waved his hand, and Sangshan dared not delay. He jogged up to the temporary platform and, upon seeing Lu Wenba being brought over, he said into the microphone, "I am Sangshan, the new mayor of Mande City. Everyone, please look, this is Lu Wenba, who has poisoned the Mande region for many years, also known as General Lu in everyone's words. Here, I would like to especially thank Jekka Company for assisting our municipal government in capturing him. His so-called Mande United Army has also been completely annihilated. From now on, you no longer have to pay exorbitant levies or taxes, nor worry about being oppressed by the Mande United Army." And Sangshan, with a script in hand, spoke eloquently on the platform, drawing cheers like thunder from the crowd below. Meanwhile, below the platform, Su Jie walked over slowly and sat down next to Lu Yingying. Lu Yingying, serving as the nominal president of Jekka Company, sat in the best location, accompanied by a group of Mande City officials who were specially invited. Most of these officials were uninvolved with Lu Wenba or had only minor connections. Those who were deeply entangled with the official had already been taken into custody by Jekka Company. Seeing that Su Jie said nothing, Lu Yingying, recalling his earlier admonitions, voiced a warning to the officials beside her. "Gentlemen, many key positions in Mande City are now vacant. I hope that after you take office you won't forget what happened today. Do not repeat the same mistakes. Keep your hands clean, or else you won't want to experience the methods of Jekka Company." Lu Yingying cast her gaze aside, and her words made several officials sweat profusely as they hurriedly assured her, "Not at all, not at all. Whatever Jekka Company asks us to do, we will do." After all, Chan Country was a nation full of warlords, and the officials were accustomed to such changes in power. Although Jekka Company was nominally just a company, being able to unite hundreds of thousands of civilians and annihilate the powerful Mande United Army undoubtedly made it the new overlord of the Mande region. The officials were very clear about who they served. "That's good." Lu Yingying nodded indifferently, though her heart was far from calm. She had never had the chance to speak with officials who controlled a city before. Now, not only could she converse with them, she could also reprimand them, which gave Lu Yingying an inexplicable sense of satisfaction. All of this was brought about by Su Jie. Su Jie had clearly stated that he wanted her to act as the spokesperson for Jekka Company in the Mande region, overseeing all affairs big and small in his absence. Lu Yingying raised her head, her gaze complicated as she looked at Su Jie by her side. She had also been to the Mande United Army camp and saw all the remnants of battle there. Without a sound, the Mande United Army, which had boasted over 1,000 soldiers, was suddenly annihilated, and Lu Wenba had been captured alive. Lu Yingying speculated that Su Jie must still secretly control a military force. Otherwise, it wasn't possible to accomplish all this without anyone noticing. Shaking her head, Lu Yingying cast aside the thoughts swirling in her mind and heard in Sangshan announce the various crimes of Lu Wenbo and the Mande United Army. I hereby declare, 21 counts of crimes have been proven against Lu Wenbo, and the death penalty will be carried out. After Sangshan finished reading, several members of Jekka security forced the trembling Lu Wenbo to kneel on the ground. One stood behind Lu Wenbo, raised a long spear, aimed it at the back of his head, and pulled the trigger. The Jekka security executor was in his early 20s, specifically appointed by Su Jie Miao Luan. Crack! Along with a gunshot, Lu Wenbo fell, his eyes still wide with disbelief, and a resounding cheer rose from the square, celebrating the removal of the largest tumor in the Mande region. With microphone in hand, Sangshan glanced at Su Jie seated below, then addressed the crowd again. To prevent incidents like that with Lu Wenbo from happening again, our municipal government has signed a comprehensive cooperation agreement with Jekka Company. We support Jekka Company in providing commercial cooperation and security assurance in the Mande region. Next, I would like to invite the president of Jekka Company to speak on stage. Please welcome her. Lu Yingying took a deep breath, feeling somewhat nervous. It's just reading from a script. You're a top student. What's there to fear from such a small occasion? Su Jie gave Lu Yingying a push, and with courage, she stepped up onto the platform, picked up the microphone, and her clear voice rang out. Fellow citizens, I am Lu Yingying, the president of Jekka Company. Now that the Mande United Army has been destroyed, our Jekka Company hereby solemnly promises that we will not allow any outside forces to disrupt the peaceful lives in the Mande region. We will protect everyone's safety and property. Also, our Jekka Company will increase our investment in the Mande region. As long as everyone focuses on breeding insects, Jekka Company's farms will purchase them unconditionally, allowing everyone to become wealthy by raising insects and enjoy a comfortable life. Jekka Company! Jekka Company! Jekka Company! The crowd below shouted one after another, with Jekka Company, having eliminated the Mande United Army, now shining brightly in the eyes of the citizens. Yang City, 900 kilometers south of Mande region, within a manor in Chan Country's capital, Yang City. A group of men and women dressed in traditional Chan Country attire, with serious expressions, sat around a conference table, discussing the recent changes in the Mande region. They were members of the Wu family and held key positions within it. The Wu family had migrated to Chan Country from a powerful nation in the north during the war years. They were descendants of a defeated army and had initially conquered a territory with formidable military force. Later, they settled, reproduced, and gradually infiltrated and merged into Chan society. Nowadays, the Wu family controlled 5 warlord forces, and Lu Wenbo was just one of the smaller ones. According to intelligence from our informants, Wenbo is dead, and his army has been annihilated. Now the Mande region is controlled by a power called Jekka Company, one reported. Wu Qingjie, the head of the Wu family, sat at the head of the table. He was about 50 years old, with a decent appearance and looked like a kind and amiable old man. Jekka Company? What's their background? They were actually able to defeat Wenbo's army. Someone asked incredulously. Wars were frequent in Chan Country, and the Wu family had rivals. Mutual attacks were common, and there had been instances of family warlords being annihilated before. Their exact origin is unknown, but what is known is that the company is financially strong and has great mobilization capabilities. They easily armed nearly 10,000 warriors. Wu Qingjie passed the documents over, then relayed the most crucial piece of information. Additionally, the owner of Jekka Company is ostensibly a woman named Lu Yingying. At these words, the meeting room fell silent, so quiet one could hear a pin drop. After a long while, someone spoke up with a parched voice. Chinese, could it be that the great northern nation wants to make a move on us? Many furrowed their brows, and some felt a nervous urge to urinate, their whole bodies uncomfortable. Nobody feared retaliation from the great northern nation more than they did. They were deserters themselves, and although they had fled to a foreign land and bullied their way into power using military strength, they knew the power of the northern nation that had caused them to flee in the first place, and that was even more true today. You all take a look for yourselves the way Jekka Company started up. They united the lower-class poor to rise up, enticing with profit and influencing with power. First stirring up public resentment in the Mande region, then sweeping away the Mande United Army with a thunderous force, and executing Wenbo publicly to win over the poor, winning the hearts of the Mande region's people. These methods, don't they seem familiar? Wu Qingjie said gravely as he displayed some documents on a projector. Gulp. Someone nervously swallowed their saliva. The more they considered these tactics, the more they resembled the shadow of that great nation. Moreover, it's still unknown how exactly the Mande United Army was annihilated. Our local informants asked the civilians near the barracks. They heard dense gunfire and explosions from the mountains, which stopped after less than half an hour. All sounds disappeared. We don't know which military force annihilated the Mande United Army, but looking at the strength of our Chan country's warlord forces, even mobilizing an army of 10,000 for a battle that lasts days and nights wouldn't be strange. Such a clean and decisive fight could only mean it was a one-sided crushing. With an expressionless face, Wu Qingjie pulled out a photo. It was the last photo of Lu Yingying giving a speech in Mande City Square. This person, there's definitely a powerful armed force behind her. With her Chinese identity, do I need to say more? The meeting room fell into silence again, filled only with the sound of heavy breathing. Someone bit their teeth in shock and fear, whispering, "How can this be? How can this be? After so many years, why would they still lay hands on us? Have you really thought others were unaware of the business you've been doing lately? Aren't the piglets that mainly come from the north the ones used in your scam operations? Even I've heard about your infamous practice of harvesting kidneys countless times." Wu Qingjie slapped the conference table and huffed. "They're probably warning us now. Can't you see? Stop the business in the scam parks for now." "Ah, Patriarch, the scam parks are our most profitable venture at the moment. If we don't have those piglets, how are we going to maintain the army? Fools, what's more important, money or life? Let's wait for this storm to pass. If there is no reaction from the north, we'll resume work. We have the piglets in our possession anyways. We can make money anytime." "You're right, Patriarch. I'll let them shift and avoid the limelight for now. As for the Mande region, don't bother, act as if you haven't seen anything. As long as the other party makes no further moves, we must not provoke them." "Oh." The power shifts occurring in the Mande region didn't attract much attention. In a country like Chan country, teeming with warlords, it wasn't unusual for powers to fight one another. With the newly risen being ousted in no time, the people had grown so accustomed to the changing flags that nobody took it seriously anymore. With the complete annihilation of the Mande United Army, nothing further hindered the rapid growth of Jekka Company, which steered into the fast lane. In the Mande region, with its several 100,000 inhabitants and over 100,000 households, the majority chose to enter into insect breeding agreements with Jekka Company. Jekka Company supplied the insect species and feed, while the villagers bred poison insects, which Jekka Company would buy back upon maturity. Such a commercial model blossomed everywhere in the Mande region, simply because it was profitable. In the past, farming barely earned a few hundred Hua Yuan a month, but after collaborating with Jekka Company, income easily broke through the 1,000 yuan mark monthly. That was the real reason why villagers eagerly sought partnership with Jekka Company. Before long, the entire Mande region was teeming with insect breeders. The poison insects and snakes they bred would, in turn, become food for the 1,000-hand centipede. Every day, poison insects and snakes were delivered continuously by the ton, to the extent that the 1,000-hand centipede, even after gorging until its belly rounded, could only gaze longingly at the mountainous pile of poison insects and snakes, unable to finish them, simply unable to consume them all. Amidst this binge-eating spree, the growth of the 1,000-hand centipede was naturally swift. Especially now that it consumed a variety of poison insects, it benefited from a more balanced diet, allowing the strength of the thousand-hand centipede to surge dramatically, once again entering a spirit refining state. This was the third spirit refining for the thousand-hand centipede. Su Jie, worried about the disturbance it might cause, took the thousand-hand centipede deep into the mountains, silently observing its transformation. The spirit refining evolution took even longer this time. After about 10 hours, Su Jie finally saw the solid insect cocoon showing signs of reaction. The giant insect cocoon, several meters high and over 10 meters long, lit up with a purple glow. Light burst through fissures. The vigorous spiritual power fluctuations also surged, sweeping in all directions, forcing Su Jie to retreat a few steps to avoid the intense storm of spiritual power. Crack, crack. The top of the insect cocoon was drilled open, and the tender body of the thousand-handed centipede crawled out of the cocoon. The freshly molted body was a pinkish color, but as it came into contact with the air, the insect shell quickly turned black and thickened, turning into a heavy chitin shell. By now, the fully transformed thousand-handed centipede had reached an astonishing length of 12 meters, comparable to the size of a bus. Sizzle! The new insect shell was somewhat itchy, and the thousand-handed centipede stood up straight and rubbed against a large tree to scratch the itch. However, this action unexpectedly caused the tree, tens of meters high, to collapse, and the falling branches and leaves landed on the thousand-handed centipede's head. It looked very confused, still not quite adapted to the sudden increase in its immense power. A low-grade poisonous insect that has undergone 3 refinements in spirit refining. Even among the inner disciples, I'm afraid not many could achieve this, Su Jie thought happily, turning his gaze to the head of the thousand-handed centipede. The most significant change in this round of spirit refining evolution was not the increase in size, but the growth of a layer of hard carapace on its head, presenting a ghastly white color similar to the pale corpse hands, as if made from pale bones. The surface of the mask was filled with cracks, and a purple glow seeped and flowed underneath, eerie beyond words. In the eye holes of the mask, there were a pair of deep grooves, and at the dark center lay a pair of cold, merciless insect eyes, staring at any living being that came close. The appearance of this bone mask made the thousand-handed centipede even more bizarre and sinister. Just one look at it sent shivers down the spine, invoking an instinctual fear that warned not to touch, not to come close, not to attempt communication. For despair was all that awaited. Thud thud. Su Jie knocked on the thousand-handed centipede's mask, placing his hand upon it. The mask felt cold and hard to the touch, with a deep purple glow flickering as if warm currents were surging within it. The stroked thousand-handed centipede lowered its head, happily arching forward seeking affection. Xiao Qian, try the new ability, Su Jie said as he patted the massive head of the thousand-handed centipede and took several steps back to stand firm. Sizzle! The thousand-handed centipede rose halfway up, and upon hearing Su Jie's command, a gloomy blue-purple light flashed on its bone mask. Boom, boom, boom. The next moment, dozens of purple light rays burst forth from the cracks in the mask's cheeks, like beams of high-temperature lasers. Whatever the purple light touched, trees snapped, rocks melted, the super-high temperature distorted the very air. Each purple light ray was extremely powerful, blasting through and severing at least a dozen large trees before their energy dissipated into nothing, leaving hot wind in their wake that caused the surrounding temperature to rapidly rise by more than 20 degrees. Immediately after, the thousand-handed centipede slightly shifted its head, and with it the purple light rays shifted, cutting through the lush trees as if they were slicing through butter. In the blink of an eye, the trees were severed and toppled, with smoke and dust filling the air. It sounds like a lengthy process, but actually, it happened incredibly fast. In just a few seconds, a large swath of forest in front was laid to waste, with the ground covered in scorched earth and burning trees. The thousand-handed centipede then closed the cracks on its bone cheeks, appearing somewhat languid as it lay down. It was clear that this move took a great toll on it and could only be used as a trump card, not as a normal attack. Purple light rays akin to high-temperature lasers. This move is suitable as a trump card. Su Jie marveled at the new ability the thousand-handed centipede had mastered after its third spirit refining. Such high-temperature beams could melt through solid steel, let alone the flesh of ordinary humans. Following this, Su Jie summoned the thousand-hand centipede to shrink its body and began operating the 100-poison refining goo scripture. The surging life force and spiritual power within the thousand-hand centipede continuously poured back into Su Jie's limbs and bones through reverse nourishment. After circulating through 36 grand circulations, Su Jie finally digested and absorbed them, synchronizing his aura completely with that of the thousand-hand centipede. Several hours later, Su Jie lifted his head, rubbed his eyes, and mobilized his spiritual power. In an instant, Su Jie's pupils turned a deep purple, and 2 beams of purple light burst forth, snapping several large trees before burning a hole several meters deep and 1 meter wide into the ground. The soil and rocks at the edge of the hole melted into flowing magma. Phew! Seeing the power of this strike, Su Jie was satisfied, but his complexion turned somewhat pale as over half of his spiritual power was depleted. Although this move was sudden and possessed astonishing power and style, it consumed a huge amount of spiritual energy indeed. Su Jie tried to minimize the supply of spiritual power while increasing the number of times he could fire the beam, but the power of the purple light ray also dropped significantly. As Su Jie was happily testing his abilities, the thousand-hand centipede was not so pleased. Hiss! The thousand-hand centipede cried out, looking at Su Jie with a grievance and signaling its hunger. Having just advanced and burned through its energy reserves, its stomach was very hungry. Okay, I'll take you back, Su Jie chuckled, cleaned up the scene, and drove the thousand-hand centipede to an insect warehouse. This place stored a large number of various poisonous insects and snakes, all prepared as food for the thousand-hand centipede. Upon entering the warehouse, the thousand-hand centipede resumed its original size and began to eat and drink lavishly. Being as large as a bus, its appetite was incredibly vast. The thousand-hand centipede grasped a box full of poisonous insects, opened it, and with a wide-open maw, the waterfall of insects cascaded into its mouth, swallowed directly. Although the thousand-hand centipede ate quickly, the warehouse held such a vast quantity of poison insects, they filled more than half the space. The thousand-hand centipede had eaten less than 1/10 of the warehouse's insects before its belly became round and tight. And this was just one of the many insect warehouses of Jekka Company. In addition, there were several large-scale poisonous insect breeding farms. After all, the tens of thousands of citizens in the Mande region were almost all rearing and catching insects. Daily, a massive quantity of poisonous insects was purchased by Jekka Company, which was already far beyond the thousand-hand centipede's dietary needs. Its size is growing slower. Su Jie watched the thousand-hand centipede eat and frowned slightly. His concern was not with the amount the thousand-hand centipede consumed but the fact that after eating so many poisonous insects and snakes, there were hardly any signs of evolution. In the past, the thousand-hand centipede's size could almost always be seen increasing after devouring a large amount of poisonous insects. The current situation further confirmed one thing: regular poison insects and snakes were becoming less and less effective for the thousand-hand centipede, almost approaching zero. Fortunately, Su Jie had anticipated this. His occupation of the Mande region was preparation for this very challenge. Only by capturing poisonous insects from the Tianyuan world and breeding them on Blue Star, using Blue Star's insect resources to enable their rapid evolution and quality enhancement, and then feeding them to the thousand-hand centipede, could he maintain its growth speed. It's about time to go back and catch some poisonous insects from Insect Valley. Su Jie's eyes flashed with a fierce light. He had initially fled from the black market under duress, but now, with greatly increased strength, cultivation at the 5th level of Yunling realm, the thousand-hand centipede advanced to low-grade 3 refinements, and mastery of the white-bone sky-slaying sword. Su Jie now had the confidence to face everything in Tianyuan world once again. Several days later, in the Tianyuan world, at the black market of Ghost Ridge Palace. Inside a low house, Su Jie stepped out of the ancient mirror and quickly released a reconnaissance dragonfly from his sleeve. Humming, the reconnaissance dragonfly flew out of the house, circling in the air above the nearby buildings. Is there no one there? Su Jie raised an eyebrow, thinking about it. It made sense, as the disciples who were after him would have assumed that Su Jie had escaped from another location and wouldn't choose to stake out the original spot for 2 months. That was not persistence, that was stupidity. He took out a mask from his storage bag and put it on his face, pulled his hood over, and stepped out of the house onto the streets of the black market. 2 months had passed, and the black market was even more desolate than when Su Jie had left. The disciples on the road, the alien ghost issue still hasn't been resolved, huh? Su Jie thought to himself as he walked for about 15 minutes and arrived in front of the gatehouse of Taishu Pavilion. In the black market, he only knew one person, and to understand the recent situation in Ghost Ridge Palace, he had to come here. Su Jie walked into the Taishu Pavilion and saw a woman organizing talismans inside the hall. Upon hearing footsteps, the woman hurriedly turned around, revealing her high-bridged nose, lips red as fire, eyes like peach blossoms, and a full figure that, with the mellowing of the years, exuded the unique charm of mature femininity that was mesmerizing. Fellow Taoist, may I ask if you need to purchase talismans or magic artifacts? I am the manager of Taishu Pavilion. Kai Chun's following words were cut off as she saw Su Jie remove his mask. Her pretty face instantly showed astonishment. Mr. Su, it's you. Surprised to see me? Su Jie walked forward while taking off his black hooded robe. Because everyone recently said you were being pursued and hadn't been seen for a long time. Many people thought you were already dead. I also thought you really... Kai Chun-yi was somewhat embarrassed, obviously. She had harbored such thoughts before, otherwise, she wouldn't have been so surprised to see Su Jie. With a beautiful woman like Sister Kai worrying about me, how could I willingly die so easily? Go on. Stop being so shameless, retorted Kai Chun-yi, rolling her eyes at Su Jie before quickly walking to the entrance of Taishu Pavilion. After looking around, Kai Chun-yi closed the main gate and hung up a sign indicating it was temporarily closed for business. It's already such a time, and you still dare to show up directly. What if someone discovers you? There's no way around it. Hiding forever isn't an option. I still need to live and continue my cultivation. Besides, I've used up all the resources I got from the alien ghost, so there must be a lot fewer disciples wanting to hunt me down. That's true. But as long as Mr. Su still has the white bone sky-slaying sword, I'm afraid. Kai Chun-yi shook her head, then seemed to think of something, looking at Su Jie hesitantly. Su Jie's eyes flashed with a sharp light as he drew closer, facing Kai Chun-yi. Sister Kai, feel free to speak your mind. The two were so close that they could even feel each other's breath. Kai Chun-yi stepped back, turned her head slightly and said tentatively, I was thinking, Mr. Su could choose to sell the white bone sky-slaying sword to Taishu Pavilion. This is also for your consideration, as the white bone sky-slaying sword is too tempting. If it's openly sold, naturally it would eliminate many hidden prying eyes. With her charming and seductive eyes, Kai Chun-yi spoke softly and gently, trying to persuade him to boost her own performance. The white bone sky-slaying sword, as a top-notch low-grade flying sword, was incredibly powerful, which was evident from the ease with which Su Jie used it to effortlessly kill thousands from the Monde United Army. It was an absolutely deadly weapon. Such an expensive and rare treasure, which would start at 1,000 blood marrow crystals on the black market, and with no guaranteed availability, no wonder Kai Chun-yi would make such a statement. If a deal could be struck, it would surely raise her status within the Taishu Pavilion. In Kai Chun-yi's view, Su Jie was surely eager to escape from his pursuers now, and her offer was mutually beneficial, making it the best time to propose the trade. Is that so? So that's what Sister Kai thinks. Su Jie advanced again, and although Kai Chun-yi might not have meant any harm, Su Jie definitely couldn't accept such a request. Perhaps he had been too accommodating. Had it been an inner disciple, Kai Chun-yi would certainly not have dared to suggest such an audacious idea. Just as Kai Chun-yi was about to say something else, her expression suddenly changed. A strong murderous intent swept over her, making her petite body feel as if it had fallen into an icy cave. Her heart felt as if it was clenched by a demonic claw, making it almost impossible for her to breathe. Clang clang. The Taishu Pavilion suddenly shook as the defense formation automatically activated. Gleaming golden seal talismans emerged from the building's floor, and there appeared Dharma Wheel, Heavenly Arrow, Wind Spear, and Jade Sword, 4 attack and kill arrays, faintly aiming at Su Jie. This was the Taishu Pavilion's defense formation, which would respond automatically to any perceived threat to protect the personnel and property of the Taishu Pavilion. Even with the protection promise from the Ghost Ridge Palace, a business that sold talismans and elixirs still had comprehensive protective measures, just in case it encountered disciples who were driven mad by greed, ignoring the rules of Ghost Ridge Palace and taking desperate risks. What's happened? Is there a thug causing trouble? In the Taishu Pavilion's backyard, a group of guards rushed over with weapons in hand, thinking they had encountered a dangerous situation. But as soon as they appeared, Su Jie's gaze moved toward them. Boom! In an instant, 2 high-temperature beams shot out from his pupils, immediately melting the weapons in their hands into molten metal, causing the guards to retreat in shock and horror. Everyone stop! Who told you to come here? Everyone back off! Kai Chun-yi took a deep breath, turned around to scold, preventing the guards' rash actions, and then took out a token, shutting down the Taishu Pavilion's self-operating defense formation. After doing all this, Kai Chun-yi turned her gaze back to Su Jie, speaking gravely. I didn't realize that, Mr. Su, you are so powerful, to have reached the 5th level of Yunling realm cultivation. While speaking, Kai Chun-yi felt some regret about her earlier suggestion. The Su Jie before her was not as ordinary as others had implied. The 3 alien ghosts were certainly not a matter of luck. It was possible he had hunted them himself, because the threat and pressure Su Jie presented to her were far beyond what a mere 5th level of Yunling realm would imply. A woman's intuition told her that if Su Jie truly wanted to kill her, even the defense formation laid out in the Taishu Pavilion might not be able to stop him. They might end up both harmed, but certainly, she wouldn't survive. Su Jie, looking at the receding talisman array, said, If I didn't have some strength, I would have been wiped clean by the other disciples long ago, wouldn't I? Seeing Su Jie's attitude, Kai Chun-yi gave a wry smile. Sorry, Mr. Su. I misspoke earlier. If I had known that you had such strength, I wouldn't have made that foolish suggestion. Even without our Taishu Pavilion, it seems no one could target you. Su Jie's eyes gleamed with amusement. It appeared strength was indeed what earned one respect. He hadn't wasted his performance just now. Kai Chun-yi was finally taking the right attitude. Sister Kai, you shouldn't covet others' belongings so carelessly. I know you're worried about my safety, but to those unaware, they might think you're trying to force a sale at a lower price. How could I? I never intended to force a price. Even if buying the Whitebone Skyslaying sword, it would be at a price satisfactory to you. Alright, I won't talk anymore. I apologize, I should not have had any designs on the Whitebone Skyslaying sword. You don't need to look like you're about to commit murder. We're not at that point in our relationship, right? Kai Chun-yi personally poured tea to apologize to Su Jie. As someone in the black market business, she wasn't naive. Seeing Su Jie's strength, she naturally extinguished any improper thoughts she might have had. Sister Kai jokes. How could I ever lift a hand against you? I'm the type who is always compassionate to women. Su Jie reined in his aura and wore a smile on his face, as if nothing had happened moments before. Kai Chun-yi was speechless. Given his gaze and aura just now, with the defense formation activated, did he really have the nerve to say such a thing? After the misunderstanding was cleared, Su Jie no longer acted hostilely but asked Kai Chun-yi about the recent situation at Ghost Ridge Palace. Are you saying the alien ghosts are wreaking havoc more severely now? Su Jie set down his teacup, his fingers gently tapping the tea table as he looked across at Kai Chun-yi. Why would I lie to you? Just go out and ask around a little, and you'll find it's very difficult for us merchants to bring in goods now. Many types of elixirs, talismans, and magic artifacts in the black market are out of stock. When Kai Chun-yi talked about this, she was full of complaints. Aren't there disciples stationed around the trade routes? Is that ineffective? Before he returned to Blue Star, Su Jie recalled, Ghost Ridge Palace had mobilized most of its disciples to station outside. Kai Chun-yi shook her head and said, "It was effective at first, but later the alien ghosts got smarter. They no longer move alone but travel in groups of 2s and 3s, and many station disciples have become the targets of the alien ghosts. Without a numerical advantage, the outer disciples are no match for the alien ghosts. Later, this strategy was cancelled, and now the disciples primarily form trade route patrol teams of dozens or more, or they get involved in merchant convoy transports, acting as guards. Even so, the casualties and losses remain high. Due to the threat of the alien ghosts, the number of merchant convoys coming to the black market has decreased by 70%, including our Taishu Pavilion. We can't bring in goods from Qingzhou, and many talismans and magic artifacts cannot be replenished. Each one sold reduces the stock further. Mr. Su, you might want to buy some now or later. You might not even have a place to buy them," warned Kai Chun-yi as her merchant nature revealed itself, trying to sell her products to Su Jie. "I'm penniless now. Where would I get the money to buy goods besides?" Su Jie pointed at the displayed talismans and magic artifacts and complained. "Besides, your prices have soared too terrifyingly. They've tripled in just 2 months. Who can afford that? You really think all disciples are easy marks? It's the market situation now. It's because Ghost Ridge Palace has been unable to eliminate the threat of the alien ghosts that we've had to raise our prices out of necessity." Kai Chun-yi was quite indignant, attributing the problem to the inaction of Ghost Ridge Palace. This time, Su Jie did not refute, understanding that one cannot hold black market merchants to too high a moral standard, and changed the subject. "Sister Kai, being well informed in the black market, I want to know, with the black market doing so poorly, has the business of trafficking human slaves also declined?" Kai Chun-yi was slightly startled and looked at Su Jie with a trace of significance. "Are you also looking to use human refining?" So-called human refining involves using humans to practice demon techniques, such as consuming human flesh to enhance one's body, using human blood for array drawing, and soul extraction for nourishing elixirs, etc. These methods often provide rapid progression in cultivation, and although there are hidden dangers later on, they are powerful in the early stages. "I'm just asking. After all, if the slave traders in the black market have decreased, the elders will certainly not let it go," said Su Jie with a shrug, unbothered by the topic of human refining as a demon cultivator. "That's still okay." Kai Chun-yi breathed a sigh of relief. She disliked those demon cultivators who practiced using human slaves, finding it too creepy and evil. After thinking for a moment, Kai Chun-yi said, "Indeed, as you guessed, the black market currently has 90% fewer human slaves for sale, and most of the slave trading businesses have already closed down. Think about it. With the alien ghosts being so dangerous, and even the disciples struggling to resist, bringing along a group of powerless slaves into the mountains, caring for their food, drink, and travel along the way not only slows them down but also makes large-scale actions more likely to be targeted by the alien ghosts. Just from what I've heard, there have been no fewer than a dozen cases of slave traders being annihilated by groups of alien ghosts, and who knows how many more there have been that haven't been reported." "I see." Su Jie's brows furrowed slightly as he pondered the impact of the current situation. Although Su Jie wasn't aware of other demon cultivation sects, the higher-ups and elders of Ghost Ridge Palace, if not all, most practiced the human refining demon technique and needed human slaves to sustain their daily consumption. You could tell by looking at the flourishing human slave market on the black market. It was like smoking opium. Once you started practicing the human refining demon technique, it was very hard to stop. If there was a prolonged stoppage in the intake of human slaves, the withdrawal symptoms of practicing the human refining demon technique would become apparent. Getting easily angered or going insane were the lesser evils. Some would even undergo flesh mutations and soul disarray, turning into deformed monsters, which were much more horrifying than the righteous cultivators running amok. This was precisely what Su Jie was worried about. The high-ranking elders of Ghost Ridge Palace would certainly not disregard a decline in the number of human slaves available on the black market. In the end, to solve this problem, orders were issued one after another, but it was still the disciples like him who had to run the errands. Unfortunately, he was just an outer disciple and, despite feeling a storm coming and being fraught with anxiety, he was utterly helpless. After learning some information from Kai Chun-yi, Su Jie didn't continue to bother her and said, "Thank you for telling me, Sister Kai. While I still have some free time, I need to find something to do. The weather is nice today, perfect for fishing. Sister Kai, would you like to join me?" Kai Chun-yi thought Su Jie was joking and rolled her pretty eyes. "You still have the leisure for that, but I don't have the time. I still need to mind the store." "Then, all right, I'll just go by myself then. Sister Kai, I take my leave." Kai Chun-yi nodded and said, "Be extra careful out there on your own. I'm still counting on you to look after my business." "Understood." Su Jie grinned, didn't say much else, and got up to leave Taishu Pavilion. Kai Chun-yi watched Su Jie leave, but just as he reached the door, Kai Chun-yi suddenly gasped, saw the mask left on the table, and realizing something, hurriedly picked up the mask and chased after Su Jie. "Wait a minute, Mr. Su. You haven't put on your mask yet. Don't go out yet." However, by the time she said this, Su Jie had already pushed open the door and walked out boldly. "Sister Kai, one can't fish without baiting the hook," he said. Su Jie didn't go to take the mask, just waved his hand and, without turning back, walked into the streets of the black market. "Wait, he's going to..." After a moment of stunned silence, Kai Chun-yi quickly understood the reason behind Su Jie's actions. She stared in shock at the gradually receding figure and couldn't resist blurting out after quite a while, "This madman." Although the black market was in decline, there were still disciples around. Acquiring resources for war preparation was a rigid demand for the disciples. Regardless of how high the prices soared, it was insignificant in comparison to the value of life. And Su Jie, who had become a notable personality in the black market just 2 months ago, was recognized by many disciples, and those black market merchants remembered his face even more clearly. Much like the relationship between Su Jie and Kai Chun-yi, the merchants always had some familiar disciples. Seeing Su Jie appear on the black market, some merchants' eyes flickered and they stealthily went to pass on the news. Su Jie, seemingly oblivious, wandered the black market several times, attracting a lot of attention before finally leaving the black market and heading toward Insect Valley. Insect Valley. Deep and boundless, the true core of Insect Valley lay within a natural basin in the dense and verdant forest. Here, the deep veins of the land leaked spiritual energy onto the surface, and coupled with the suitable environment, it formed a paradise for various poison insects. Within Insect Valley, there weren't only countless inferior poisonous insects, but also low-grade and mid-grade poisonous insects made their appearances. Yet, ordinary outer disciples dared not capture them, for they were no match. At this moment on the perimeter of Insect Valley, Su Jie stood atop a tall tree, gazing at the vast expanse of the valley basin which had no visible end. The sounds of various insects crawling and chirping filled his ears. One could see spiders weaving webs everywhere, venomous bees hidden in the grass and shrubs, and ants marching in groups, most of which were inferior poisonous insects that outer disciples could capture, but they also posed a certain threat. However, Su Jie was not worried at the moment. Instead of intending to capture any, he quietly stayed in place, silently calculating the time in his mind. "They're here." Su Jie's gaze shifted slightly as he slowly turned around. Behind him, figures were rapidly darting through the forest. In just a matter of 10-odd seconds, they had moved hundreds of meters to come close to Su Jie. A total of 8 disciples, wearing the garb of outer disciples from Ghost Ridge Palace. Their identities were self-explanatory. It was just unknown which elder they served under. "Who are you? What do you want to do?" Su Jie shook his body, feigning an expression of great alarm and looking anxiously at the approaching Ghost Ridge Palace disciples. "Mr. Su, you sure made us search for you. A whole 2 months. You've wasted 2 months of our time, and now you're asking us what we want to do." The leader of the group of outer disciples was a man with a 5th level of Yunling realm cultivation. His face was sinister, with sunken eyes, and within one of his eye sockets was not a human eyeball but instead a rounded black beetle. At this moment, he was glaring fiercely at Su Jie, his malevolence not at all concealed in his gaze. The other disciples mostly had a cultivation around the third level of Yunling realm and were cooperating with the insect eye man to block Su Jie's path. So what exactly do you want to do? If you have no business with me, I'll be leaving. Su Jie took a couple of steps back, his gaze shifting towards the forest beyond. More disciples were on their way. The enemies were clearly stalling for time with their conversation, not aware that this also aligned perfectly with Su Jie's intentions. Want to leave? Hand over the white-bone sky-slaying sword first and we can let you go. The insect eye man exuded a chilling aura. As he spoke, his eyes remained fixated on Su Jie, ready to react to any movement instantly. Shoo! 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 Several more disciples hurried over. They were a separate group from the insect eye man and not part of his faction. The arrival of the new disciples changed the confrontation, with each group warily guarding against the other, fearing the others would reap the benefits of their conflict. Oh, so you've come for the white-bone sky-slaying sword. You should have said so sooner. If you want it, I'll give it to you. Su Jie seemed to relax and took out the white-bone sky-slaying sword from his storage bag. Whoosh! In an instant, unknowable greed was firmly captivated. However, the disciples did not relax their vigilance. On the contrary, they became even more alert, conjuring hordes of poisonous insects from their sleeves, prepared for Su Jie to take advantage of the situation. Yet none of them took the initiative to attack, as the threat of the white-bone sky-slaying sword was too great. Although reports indicated that Su Jie's strength wasn't formidable, only at the 4th level of Yunling realm cultivation, and acquiring alien ghost was merely good luck. Even the insect eye man felt intimidation in his heart. Had it not been for the numerical advantage, he would certainly have turned tail and fled. Hearing Su Jie's words, the man with insect eyes could not help but say, "Throw the white-bone sky-slaying sword over here, and I'll let you go." "Shut up. Hand over the white-bone sky-slaying sword to us, and I guarantee your safety." Another group of disciples likewise spoke up, their gaze vigilant and fixed on the white-bone sky-slaying sword. Su Jie looked back and forth with a wry smile and said, "This puts me in a difficult spot. Whom should I give it to? Why don't you fight it out among yourselves? I'll hand it over to whoever wins." Both groups exchanged glances, and the man with insect eyes sneered. "Trying to sow discord among us? Gentlemen, why don't we join forces to kill him first, then decide how to divide this white-bone sky-slaying sword?" The man with insect eyes seemed quite confident, and while he spoke, he even glanced back a few times inadvertently. The other group didn't speak, only quietly blocking Su Jie's retreat. At the same time, 2 other groups of disciples rushed over hurriedly. They were not on the same side either. In this way, with 4 groups combined, a total of 20 disciples surrounded Su Jie, each bearing an encircling stance. "Everyone's here now. I'll just toss the white-bone sky-slaying sword randomly. Whoever grabs it can have it." Su Jie narrowed his eyes slightly and, having confirmed with his reconnaissance dragonfly that everyone had arrived, flung the white-bone sky-slaying sword out. By some twist of fate, the white-bone sky-slaying sword was thrown in the direction of the man with insect eyes, drawing the rapt attention of countless disciples towards this supreme flying sword. The man with insect eyes felt a chill in his heart, thinking that Su Jie intended to frame him, and shouted angrily, "Want to frame me? Kill him first." It was precisely at this moment that the ground beneath Su Jie suddenly churned and shook. Following that, streams of purple light rays burst forth from underground. While the disciples were distracted, the rays instantly shone upon their bodies. Dozens of high-temperature beams struck the bodies of the disciples. They didn't even have a chance to cry out. The poisonous insects didn't have time to react before their bodies were ignited by the beams. Bones and flesh melted like ice and snow under the rays, leaving no intact corpses behind. In the blink of an eye, over 20 disciples met their untimely deaths. Only the man with insect eyes and 3 other disciples, all at the 5th level of Yunling realm, reacted quickly enough to narrowly avoid the rays, lucky to survive. "Sorry, I might have gone a bit overboard. Next time, I will restrain myself a bit and try to leave you with a complete body." Su Jie looked at the 3 men with a grin. No sooner had he finished speaking than the ground beneath Su Jie roared and shook, followed by a thunderous rumble as the thousand-hand centipede burst out from below. The previous attack had been unleashed by the thousand-hand centipede lying in wait underground, with exceedingly good effect. It truly lived up to its reputation as a skill honed through thrice-refined spirit refining, annihilating the majority of the enemies in one blow. 3 times spirit refining a poisonous insect. How could it be? I must be seeing things. This is bad. We've been deceived. He set a trap for us. This person is incredibly tricky. The man with insect eyes, who was among the survivors, looked at Su Jie in terror. Before the last person could finish speaking, his pupils dilated dramatically, and his head fell from his neck. The white-boned sky-slaying sword didn't let him utter his last words before severing his head. Your turn now. Don't make the brothers down below wait. They get lonely. Su Jie smiled as he turned his gaze towards the remaining 2 men with insect eyes. Run, run, run. With their souls nearly fleeing their bodies, the 2 men were utterly terror-stricken and scrambled away without looking back. Go, bring them back. Su Jie patted the head of the thousand-hand centipede he was riding, controlling the poisonous insect and the white-boned sky-slaying sword, intending to utterly obliterate his enemies. The thousand-hand centipede let out an excited hiss, charging through the forest like a war chariot, booming as it pursued its prey. The man with insect eyes and his fellows could probably never have imagined that Su Jie, whom they once chased to the point of forcing him to retreat to Blue Star, was, just 2 short months later, now hunting them down relentlessly, leaving them with no escape to the heavens and no doors to the earth. Such are the vicissitudes of life. The man with the insect eye panted heavily as he frantically fled. Hearing the footsteps growing heavier behind him, he couldn't help but look back. In the forest, flocks of birds took flight en masse, and a trail of dust rapidly approached in his direction, the result of trees being forcefully knocked down. Damn it, who said his strength was mediocre? Is this what you call mediocre? The disturbance sent chills over the man with the insect eye as he tried to gauge the distance between himself and Su Jie. Even though he had stuck a Godspeed talisman on his legs in an attempt to escape his pursuer, he couldn't really increase the distance. Instead, the sounds of the pursuit grew ever closer. Oddly, the man with the insect eye thought of a cat playing with a mouse. With the speed of the white-boned sky-slaying sword, he shouldn't have been able to make it this far. Unfortunately, in his panic, the man with the insect eye had no time to think deeply, or rather, he dared not think about it. The sparse light in the jungle had already frightened the man with the insect eye, turning him into a scared bird. Especially the deep shadows cast by the dense canopy and the twisted, dry branches swaying in the wind, which seemed like multiple shadows of Su Jie watching him from the darkness, leaving him with nothing but fear. I can't escape. There's no escape at all. Someone needs to help me delay him. Buy me time to get back to Brother Feng. Only then might I have a chance to survive. The tightly wound nerve in the man with the insect eye was about to snap. At that moment, he turned to look at another man who had fled with him, also an inner disciple with 5th level of Yunling realm cultivation. A malicious look flashed across his face as the black beetle in his left eye suddenly writhed and burrowed out of his eye socket. This was his low-grade, life-bound poisonous insect. Once it crawled out, its wings unfolded, emitting a mist that silently spread. The man, also with 5th level of Yunling realm cultivation, suddenly went limp as if drunk, struck by the poison. This type of poisonous insect was mediocre in direct combat but sinisterly effective in ambush. Despite the other man's preparedness, he fell victim to the schemes of the man with the insect eye. Thank you, fellow Taoist. Help me hold off that monster for a while. I will find someone to avenge you. Not stopping for a moment, the man with the insect eye leapt over the other man and plunged deeper into the dense forest. You won't die a good death. The enfeebled man roared bitterly, but his anger was futile. He could only helplessly listen to the increasingly approaching sounds of pursuit. As the fearsome low-grade 3 refining poisonous insect came into view, its eyes emitting intense fear and despair. After a short while, the heart of the man with the insect eye trembled. He faintly heard a scream from behind, which made him speed up even more. Minutes later, the man with the insect eye caught sight of a small stream in the distance. Under the willow trees by the stream, a handsome young man with clear and gentle eyes and dressed in a white robe leaned against a tree. With one hand propping his cheek, he enjoyed the sunlight and breeze while admiring the lively swimming fish in the stream, seemingly immersed in his own world, exuding a sense of comfort and ease. Upon hearing footsteps, the young man slightly lifted his eyelids and spoke indifferently. "Why are you the only one back? Did you handle things well?" With a thud, the man with the insect eye knelt on the ground, his voice trembling. "Brother Feng, that's Su." Su Jie was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. "His strength is not at all as weak as we anticipated. Everyone we sent has been killed by him." "What are you saying? You can't even deal with an outer disciple? He wields the white-boned sky-slaying sword. Didn't you guys team up? Could his flying sword still protect him, you bunch of trash?" Brother Feng snorted disdainfully and disdainfully kicked the man with the insect eye on the ground. "No, Brother Feng, Su Jie. He's not just about the white-boned sky-slaying sword. He also has—" "What else? You think finding excuses will save you? Incompetence in handling matters and wasting spiritual energy just by being alive." Feng Wenjin interrupted the man with the insect eye without explanation, for he had seen too many of those who looked for excuses for their losses. "I didn't lie, Su Jie really has," the man with the insect eye hastily shouted, but before he could finish his sentence, Brother Feng's eyes sharpened, and he suddenly slapped toward the man with the insect eye. Buzzing, countless tiny mosquitoes and flies formed a palm-sized one-zhang square, which swooped down with a howl. "Brother Feng, I really tried my best." The man with the insect eye was terrified and instinctively tried to dodge. However, the palm formed by the mosquitoes and flies merely swept over the man's head, carrying with it a foul wind, and several dragonflies that couldn't dodge in time were shattered into blood foam by the powerful slap. "Idiot!" Trailed by a long line without even realizing it. Brother Feng snorted coldly, his hands clasped behind his back as he gazed into the depths of the dense forest, slowly saying, "Mr. Su, since you are here, why not show yourself?" The branches and leaves in the dense forest shook as a figure slowly stepped out. Just as this figure appeared, Brother Feng raised his right arm, and a dark light burst from his sleeve, instantly piercing through the heart of the figure emerging from the forest. Upon closer inspection, that dark light was actually a black centipede with 6 pairs of wings, arm length, and its belly's limbs were shaped like blades, cutting like an electric saw in rapid flight, incomparably sharp. An insect puppet? Brother Feng saw the figure's heart pierced, yet there was no trace of joy on his face, because that was clearly a corpse puppet forcibly controlled by insects. The man with the insect eye also saw the figure clearly, and felt a chill in his heart. This figure was precisely the man with the 5th level of Yunling realm cultivation whom he had underhandedly placed behind to draw Su Jie's attention. He had already lost all signs of life, and even in death, he was not left in peace but used to scout the way. Insect control technique, that is a magic skill only inner disciples are allowed to observe. Where did you learn it from? Brother Feng's gaze deepened as his eyes swept repeatedly through the forest, trying to locate Su Jie's figure. Whistling sounds. Several fire streaks shot out from the forest. A swarm of small flies had just appeared, only to be burnt to ashes. These flies were reconnaissance insects controlled by Brother Feng using the insect control technique. However, Brother Feng didn't care at all. More flies flew chaotically in the forest, quickly detecting traces of movement. As expected of an inner disciple, your mastery of the insect control technique is more proficient. Along with a burst of applause from within the forest, Su Jie clapped his hands as he walked out from the gloomy and ominous forest. Since both parties mastered the insect control technique, hiding was not very meaningful. After walking a few dozen meters, Su Jie stopped his steps, and both parties stood opposite each other across a small stream, sizing each other up. "I didn't expect that the one hunting me would be an inner disciple under Elder Yi's lineage. Your name is Feng Wenjin, right?" Su Jie recognized the identity of the handsome man opposite. having met him once before. Back then, at a black market betting fight, this man was an inner disciple under Yi Jingu, and the opponent had competed with Pei Haibing in hunting alien ghosts. Although they had tied, in the end, the emerging Su Jie had taken the lead. Feng Wenjin nodded with a smile and said, "Heh! Mr. Su still remembers my name. 2 months have passed since we last met, and you seem to have been doing quite well." No, I haven't been doing well at all. Your disciples have never given me peace, and now even the inner sect disciples are joining in. It seems I've underestimated the allure of the white bone sky-slaying sword. Su Jie slightly moved his fingers, and the white bone sky-slaying sword flew through the clouds and broke through the sky, hovering above Su Jie's head, spinning around. Upon hearing this, Feng Wenjin sighed with a hint of self-reproach. It was my fault that my master lost the wager, and with it, the mid-grade magical artifact Taisu Shining Soul Pearl. Although master didn't blame me afterwards, I felt extremely guilty and wanted to make it up to him personally. And what better way to make amends than to bring back the white bone sky-slaying sword? Surely he would be very pleased. "So, you're sure you've got me, aren't you?" Su Jie's eyes narrowed slightly, and from his sleeves, dozens of fire blood bees and silver-winged golden-line cicadas flew out together. "Mr. Su, you underestimate the strength of inner sect disciples. A flying sword doesn't mean you can truly match up to us inner sect disciples." Feng Wenjin hooked up the corner of his mouth, and as he smiled lightly, he threw out a few poisonous insects that grew upon exposure to the wind. Upon closer inspection, it turned out to be a massive poison insect 5 meters in length, its body covered with pustules and barbs. This was a low-grade 1 refining poisonous insect, known as the scale-prick long ghost worm. Besides that, there were also 4 giant beetles over 2 meters in length, clad in thick insect armor, all low-grade poisonous insects called thundering beetles, not only with immense strength and thick armor but also possessing the power of lightning. Uigu masters rely on poisonous insects to fight. Relying on external items like flying swords, you can only act fierce for a moment. Feng Wenjin elegantly spread his arms, as the 4 thundering beetles shook their bodies, baring their teeth and claws. Their horn-like antennae, comparable to spears, flickered with cold light, while the scale-prick long ghost worm raised its swollen head high. The 6-winged centipede also hissed menacingly at Su Jie. Seeing this, Su Jie was not surprised. Instead, he questioned skeptically, "Is that all? What do you mean, that's all?" Feng Wenjin felt he had made quite an impact with his entrance and didn't quite grasp the meaning behind Su Jie's words. "I mean, that's all the poisonous insects you, an inner sect disciple, have got? That's not enough. You are an inner sect disciple." Su Jie rubbed his temple. Even though a low-grade 1 refining poisonous insect along with 5 low-grade poisonous insects was already a terrifying combination, capable of an overwhelming victory over outer disciples, it was totally inadequate before Su Jie. Still acting tough at the brink of death. "You defeated those worthless ones relying on the white bone sky-slaying sword, didn't you? But I'm different." Feng Wenjin was somewhat displeased. He felt a surge of irritation at Su Jie's belittlement. The worthless ones he referred to were the insect eye man who managed to escape. Hearing Feng Wenjin's comment, the man's mouth opened to speak, but before he could say a word, he noticed the dense forest behind Su Jie shake, and a terrifying figure appeared in his field of vision. 10 or so meters in length, its vast insect body was black as ink jade, with hundreds of pale corpse hands creeping along. On its grotesque and terrifying bone mask head, a pair of cold and ruthless insect eyes moved, sending shivers down one's spine and a primal fear of the gigantic creature rising uncontrollably. Once the 1,000-handed centipede appeared, Feng Wenjin's expression changed dramatically, and his previously tranquil demeanor vanished. Instead, his mouth hung open slightly, his gaze blank. Disbelieving, he looked at the low-grade 3 refining poisonous insect that had appeared behind Su Jie. Low-grade 3 refinements. How could there be a low-grade 3 refinement poisonous insect? Where did you get the resources to cultivate it? Feng Wenjin's confusion and shock received no answer, and he could only turn and glare at the insect eye man. If looks could kill, the insect eye man would probably be riddled with blood holes by now. With a cold face, Feng Wenjin forced out a soul-searching question through his clenched teeth. He has a low-grade 3 refinement poisonous insect. Why didn't you tell me earlier? The insect eye man had a gloomy expression, frantically explaining. I wanted to tell you, but you kept interrupting, and I never got the chance. Feng Wenjin fell silent. He had looked down on the outer disciples too much, assuming Su Jie was merely acting fierce with the white-boned sky-slaying sword, and dismissed the insect eye man's earlier attempts to explain himself. It seems I overestimated you, inner sect disciples. No, I should say I overestimated you. Not all inner sect disciples can be as lackluster as you are. Su Jie shook his head. Before confronting the inner sect disciples, he had always overestimated Feng Wenjin's abilities. Now that he saw what was before him, a low-grade 1 refining poisonous insect joined by several ordinary low-grade poisonous insects, he was deeply disappointed. Of course, this was also related to Feng Wenjin's strength. Su Jie could vaguely sense that he was at the 6th level of Yunling realm, which just met the minimum threshold for an inner sect disciple, certainly not comparable to seasoned inner sect disciples. Roar! The thousand-handed centipede seemed to sense its master's dissatisfaction and let out a heavenward shriek. Its heavy and terrifying body charged forward like a rumbling train. A few thundering beetles surged with electricity, and several lightning balls fell, striking the thousand-handed centipede's insect shell, causing only minor cracks in the beautiful ink jade shell. The scale-prick-long ghost worm opened its mouth wide as its barbs exploded, and along with the pus from its pustules, sprayed at the thousand-handed centipede, turning it into a hedgehog of sorts. Despite this, the thousand-handed centipede's speed was undiminished in the slightest, as if these attacks were no more than a tickle. Then it was seen biting down ferociously. One of the thundering beetles shrieked as the thousand-handed centipede bit it into 2 halves. After the strike, the upper body of the thousand-handed centipede stood erect, and the numerous pale corpse hands detached from its body, crawling rapidly towards the other insects in an eerily mesmerizing manner, encroaching and biting like a horde of ants. In the blink of an eye, the remaining 3 poisonous beetles were enveloped by countless pale corpse hands and forcefully kneaded into a pulp of flesh and debris. Only the scale-prick-long ghost worm, covered in pustules all over its body, experienced a stress response when attacked. Patches of pustules on its surface burst open, ejecting corrosive poisonous blood that eroded many of the approaching pale corpse hands. Less than 10 seconds had passed since the battle started. Although there was only 1,000-handed centipede, the difference in grades between the 2 sides was vast, like an adult striking a child. A few thundering beetles were crushed in the blink of an eye, and the scale-prick-long ghost worm was also shivering. At the same time, the white-boned sky-slaying sword pierced downward, nailing the 6-winged centipede to death, then continued its relentless flight toward Feng Wenjin. 1,000 mosquito swarm. Feng Wenjin's complexion turned ugly as he slapped the blue pouch at his waist. Buzz buzz. A massive swarm of mosquitoes and tiny insects surged out of the bag, enveloping Feng Wenjin within them and forming a black insect cloud that covered hundreds of square meters. The flying sword dived into the swarm, like a swordfish entering a school of sardines, unable to locate Feng Wenjin's figure, only capable of killing those tiny mosquitoes and flies. Even the fire lines sprayed by the Een fire blood bees controlled by Su Jie were engulfed and extinguished by the insect cloud, and the silver-winged golden-lined cicada that flew into it was devoured cleanly in an instant. 1,000 mosquitoes, body worm. From within the insect cloud, Feng Wenjin's high-pitched voice resonated. Countless mosquitoes and flies converged into the form of a Jiaolong, a mythical dragon, rolling and twisting in the air as it lunged to attack Su Jie. Wherever the insect cloud passed, stones turned into hornet nests, and ancient trees exploded into a shower of wood chips, demonstrating formidable power. Shao Qian, Su Jie called out. The 1,000-handed centipede let go of the nearly consumed scale-prick-long ghost worm. The bone mask split open, and beams of purple light ray burst forth, instantly sweeping away scores of mosquitoes and flies with extreme heat, creating large voids within the insect cloud. The insect cloud churned, and a black pagoda floated in the void. This powerful magical artifact appeared. The layers of the pagoda opened, the air vibrated, and invisible air blades slashed in all directions. The thousand-handed centipede coiled its body, protecting Su Jie at its center, as countless air blades slashed the ground into pieces. The thousand-handed centipede sustained some light injuries but rapidly healed them in the blink of an eye. As the thousand-handed centipede defended, the scale-prick-long ghost worm opened its mouth wide, its abdomen swelling as white insect eggs spewed out like a waterfall from its oral apparatus. The moment the eggs touched the ground, they embedded themselves in all flesh and blood bodies. Visible to the naked eye, bulges formed under the thousand-handed centipede's insect shell. White maggots hatched and began to squirm through the flesh. In just a moment, the thousand-handed centipede's body shook violently, its massive form exploding into millions of small centipedes which turned around and consumed the white maggots as if they were delicious snacks. It was at this critical moment that Feng Wenjin, who had been waiting, saw his chance and decisively threw out 3 advanced low-grade thunder charms. Because the thousand-handed centipede had fragmented into smaller centipedes, Su Jie's figure was exposed, and 3 arc-shaped bolts of lightning struck him from above. The rapidly intercepting white-bone sky-slaying sword was continuously buzzing from the impact, and Su Jie felt suffocated, with his internal qi and blood surging. Inner disciples indeed had many tricks up their sleeves. It was only because Su Jie was 1 level below in strength that he couldn't fully harness the power of the white-bone sky-slaying sword. Otherwise Feng Wenjin wouldn't have been able to shake this flying sword at all. Feng Wenjin let out a cold laugh as the swarm of insects sharply compressed, condensing into a black giant sword. He himself merged with the sword, striking towards Su Jie like a bolt of lightning. The black pagoda continuously emitted air blades, bombarding the white-bone sky-slaying sword without pause, delaying the sword's offensive. Finally showing yourself. Su Jie had been waiting for this opportunity. With a cold snort, the flesh on his side split open, and countless pale arms rapidly grew, continuously turning outwards like a blooming corpse-hand flower, desperately blocking the advance of the insect sword. Countless pale arms were chopped off, only for new ones to grow back and take their place, holding their ground. Feng Wenjin bit down hard, wanting to break through with one final push, when he suddenly saw Su Jie's cold eyes looking at him. Boom! 2 purple light rays shot out from Su Jie's pupils, with less than a meter separating them, giving Feng Wenjin no chance to avoid them. His entire upper body was melted by the high temperature of the purple light rays, leaving only his legs standing rigidly in place. Clap, 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 clap. With Feng Wenjin's death, without the supply of spiritual power to control them, the swarm of mosquitoes dispersed and fled like rain. Not far away, countless small centipedes surrounded the scale-prick-long ghost worm, which by now was eaten down to just a skeleton. Farther away, the insect man, who was affected by the battle between Su Jie and Feng Wenjin, was covered by the scale-prick-long ghost worm's eggs, with white maggots hatching inside out all over his body, turning him into lifeless rotting corpse. It could be said that he was the most wronged in his death. The saying goes, when immortals fight, mortals suffer. And Insect Man was a prime example. Let's see what good stuff there is. Su Jie bent down, happily collecting the loot. A roughly 30-centimeter tall black 9-layered pagoda. This was a low-grade middle-level magical artifact that continuously released invisible blades with just the supply of spiritual energy, easily worth hundreds of blood marrow crystals. Void Light 9-Blade Tower. Nice name. It's my treasure now. Su Jie saw the seal script engraved at the base of the tower, which also bore the stamp of an artifact refiner, serving as a kind of advertisement. Beyond this artifact, Su Jie found a palm-sized blue pouch, which was an insect control bag. An insect control bag is a special branch of a storage bag. It has a unique space inside where poisonous insects can survive. It cannot store items like a storage bag. Its sole function is to carry poisonous insects and toxins. Once inside, the insects enter a semi-hibernation state where their metabolism nearly halts. Since Gu masters primarily rely on poisonous insects for combat, and often can carry only a limited amount, especially in the case of a large quantity of tiny insects. The insect control bag is essential for transportation. Like the swarm of mosquitoes and flies that Feng Wenjin had summoned, they would normally be kept in an insect control bag and summoned for battle, because it would be impossible for an individual to carry such a large swarm otherwise. Su Jie checked it and quickly covered it with his own blood, then used spiritual energy to refine away the prohibitions left by Feng Wenjin. He found that this beast control bag had about several dozen cubic meters of space, quite substantial. It would cost at least 200 to 300 blood marrow crystals on the black market. This guy is loaded. Su Jie clicked his tongue twice. He hadn't been willing to buy an insect control bag himself, but this unexpected find had saved him an expense. Next to the storage bag was another small bag, a 3 cubic meter mini storage bag. Within the storage bag, there were a good number of blood marrow crystals, as well as some low-grade talismans and elixirs, along with many auxiliary cultivation materials. Their value also added up to hundreds of blood marrow crystals. Adding up the previous findings, Feng Wenjin had provided Su Jie with loot worth over 1,000 blood marrow crystals. What's this? As Su Jie was digging through the storage bag, his gaze suddenly sharpened when he saw 3 pale golden scriptures. The scriptures were made from the same material as the insect control technique he had previously obtained, which made Su Jie's heart leap with joy. He concentrated and saw that each of the 3 books had a line written in seal script on the cover. Gu Master's Secret, Insect Control Technique. Gu Master's Secret, Body Worm Focusing Method. Gu Master's Secret Human Worm Refining Technique. Besides the insect control technique that Su Jie had previously acquired, the other 2 scriptures were unknown to him. Based on the material, these 3 scriptures should be texts only available to inner disciples for cultivation, considered an advanced version of the 100 poison refining insect scripture. Su Jie opened the scriptures and read carefully. He discovered that the body worm focusing method was the technique Feng Wenjin had used to command the mosquito and fly insect cloud. This method, in essence, was about controlling swarms of insects. The specific process involved finding a type of insect that lived in a community, then continuously bathing them in spiritual power to gradually blend one's own essence with the swarms. Many insect communities have social structures with strict hierarchies and clear divisions of labor. For example, in ant colonies, the queen ant is the core of the entire colony, and bee swarms have a queen bee. The body worm focusing method is about disguising oneself as the leader of an insect swarm and thereby controlling the entire swarm. Otherwise, like regular Gu masters that connect through heart and blood, facing tens of thousands of insects, trying to control each one individually would be toilsome to the point of death. It's actually a magic skill for controlling insect swarms. As Su Jie read more, then, Su Jie couldn't wait to flip through the last scripture, the human worm refining technique. However, the more Su Jie read the scripture, the more somber his expression became. Because the cultivation method recorded in this scripture was too horrifying to contemplate. The so-called human worm refining technique involved using living humans for cultivation, feeding insects with humans, merging humans with insects, and finally transforming oneself into a human-like poisonous insect. The whole process was incredibly bloody and terrifying. Even though the scripture stated that once mastered, this technique was mighty, Su Jie had no intention of practicing it. I'm afraid those elders bought so many living people from the black market precisely to cultivate this kind of magic skill. Su Jie murmured to himself, relegating the human worm refining technique to an untouched shelf, unable to overcome the psychological barrier it presented. After acquiring the 3 scriptures, Su Jie found no other spoils that caught his eye. Looking around, the 1,000-hand centipede had already cleaned up all the scattered insect corpses on the battlefield, its insect armor becoming even more lustrously shining. Cleaning up some of the traces at the scene, Su Jie collected all the corpses and burned them thoroughly, destroying the evidence, leaving no bodies behind for identification. An inner disciple was different from an outer disciple, whose status was expendable. Killing an inner sect disciple would definitely lead to an investigation by their respective elders, and Su Jie certainly didn't want to provoke an elder at this time. After making sure he left no personal information behind, Su Jie put away the Void Light 9-blade tower, called back the 1,000-hand centipede, and swiftly left the area. Oh! 2 days later, on the periphery of Insect Valley, in a desolate mountain cliff valley, thumb-sized insects with facial features akin to humans lay on rocks and trees. The noise created when they fluttered their wings sounded like the wind blowing through a sea of trees, and their number was astonishingly large. This was the territory of the human-faced moth, and the human-faced moths living here would devour any enemy bold enough to intrude and disturb them. On a cliff within the terrain of the human-faced moths, a figure stood. It was Su Jie, who had just learned the body worm focusing method and wanted to test his newly acquired skills. Facing the swarm of insects at the bottom of the cliff, Su Jie took a deep breath and took out a small bottle from his storage bag, filled with shimmering red blood. The human-faced moths were extremely sensitive to blood. As soon as Su Jie opened the bottle, the human-faced moths within several kilometers were immediately alarmed. Flapping their wings and lifting their rotund bodies quickly into the air, they formed a dark, towering sandstorm that furiously surged towards Su Jie. Su Jie had just positioned the thousand-hand centipede to coil itself properly, with him sheltering inside it. Then he saw the masses of human-faced moths, drawn by the scent of blood, dive-bombing from the sky, hitting the thousand-hand centipede like rain, their ferocious mouthparts tearing and spitting corrosive acid. The thousand-hand centipede, already at low grade 3 refinements, should not have feared the human-faced moth, which was considered an inferior poison insect. But as the saying goes, quantity can cause a qualitative change. Ants can bite an elephant to death. The coiled-up thousand-hand centipede was completely enveloped by the human-faced moths, resembling an onion ring covered in breadcrumbs, with countless moths viciously biting and spitting acid, the insect shell hissing as it corroded. If this continued, not even a mid-grade 3 refinements could withstand it. This demonstrated the terrifying nature of the group-living human-faced moths. Su Jie dared not delay. He decisively grew numerous pale corpse hands that reached out from between the coiled segments of the thousand-hand centipede, grabbing large numbers of human-faced moths. Without time to count them, he immediately made the thousand-hand centipede take off. The thousand-hand centipede twisted its body, managed to swallow a few human-faced moths, then raised its head. The bone mask split open, and dozens of purple light rays cleared a path. Its dense underside full of pale corpse hands crawled rapidly, breaking out of the territory of the human-faced moths. After escaping the territory of the human-faced moth, the monstrous swarm chasing him slowed down. The thousand-handed centipede took a burst of energy and carried Su Jie tens of kilometers away, completely losing sight of the human-faced moth and successfully evading their pursuers. How fierce! Wiping the cold sweat from his forehead, Su Jie used to sneak around in the past when facing the human-faced moths, crouching stealthily all day, looking for a chance to snatch a few. This was the first time he had been so dominantly aggressive, and the process was quite perilous. This could be seen from the state of the thousand-handed centipede. Its beautiful jade-like insect body had become pockmarked and some flesh had been corroded. It was currently whimpering pitifully and sneakily eyeing the captured human-faced moths, wanting to feed on them. "You can't eat these." Su Jie pushed the huge head of the thousand-handed centipede away, delightfully looking at the captured human-faced moths, numbering at least 1,000. Fearing that the vitality of these human-faced moths would decline, Su Jie grabbed a few and crushed them with his fingers, smearing the insect blood on his palm. He then sat down with his legs crossed and began to practice the body worm focusing method. The insect blood in his palm seemed to be scorched by high heat, evaporating into mist which Su Jie inhaled into his lungs. Spiritual power surged with his breath, and Su Jie's breathing rhythm became extremely slow, taking a dozen minutes for his chest to rise and fall once, his long breath accompanying the flow of spiritual energy, his aura gradually changing, his thoughts slowing down, his mind emptying. The human-faced moths, originally held by the pale corpse hands, were extremely agitated, frantically attacking everything around them. But as Su Jie practiced the body worm focusing method, the scent of the insect blood on him changed, quieting many of the human-faced moths down. Several hours later, almost all the human-faced moths had calmed down, lying quietly on the pale corpse hands. Even when Su Jie loosened their restraints, the human-faced moths did not fly away to escape. Opening his eyes from cultivation, Su Jie picked up a few human-faced moths and placed them on his palm. These short and stout poisonous insects with human-like features showed no intention of attacking. Take off! With a thought from Su Jie, a few human-faced moths looked up at him, then continued to lie on his hand, with only one moth moving slightly, rolling over on his palm, making Su Jie's forehead crease with a black line. It seems I'm not quite commanding as an insect king yet. Need more practice. Though not disappointed, Su Jie had only been practicing for a few hours, and the effect he achieved had already surprised him. After thinking it over, Su Jie took out several blood marrow crystals from his storage bag, crushed them, and threw them to the human-faced moths. The once calm moths immediately started nibbling on the blood marrow crystals. Take off! After the few human-faced moths had eaten their fill, Su Jie issued the command again. This time, the moths flapped their wings and flew up from Su Jie's palm, swirling around him in chaotic flight. Damn it! There's no loyalty without feeding. Su Jie couldn't help but express his annoyance. His bodyworm focusing method was still not perfected, and he could only rely on this method to speed up the insect control. But wanting to eat, that's much simpler. Su Jie took out the ancient mirror from his bosom, stepped back into the blue star world, and soon returned with a large number of ordinary poisonous insects and snakes, feeding them to the human-faced moths. The human-faced moths, unabashed and unreserved, treated this as a royal treat from the insect king, joyously eating and drinking incessantly. After several trips back and forth, Su Jie had fed the human-faced moths to their satisfaction and started the bodyworm focusing method again to command them. Buzz buzz! A large swarm of human-faced moths fluttered their wings and took to the air, following Su Jie's commands, forming an S shape at one moment and an O shape the next in the sky. Amid the roaring, thousands of human-faced moths vibrated their wings under Su Jie's direction, attacking the forest ahead. Like a group of bombers, the human-faced moths flew at low altitude, spewing acid water that riddled the extensive forest with holes, blackening it and causing many trees to fall one after another. In the end, the swarm perched on the treetops, their ferocious mandibles wide open, leaving the ancient trees completely bare as they devoured them. Not bad, not bad. It's just that their numbers are still a bit too few. Su Jie admired the swarm's destructive performance, a smile inevitably spreading across his face. But Su Jie's laughter meant that the thousand-handed centipede was in trouble. Because when it came to capturing insects, it was the one that got beaten up. Sizzle sizzle. The thousand-handed centipede let out a hiss, constantly rubbing its head against Su Jie, expressing its protest against his actions. Good boy. I'll give you something tasty to eat soon. Su Jie patted the thousand-handed centipede on its head and coaxed. Just think, I'm doing this to enhance my strength. If I can master the swarm, I can capture a large number of poisonous insects to bring back to Blue Star in the future, and then evolve them into low-grade poisonous insects for your extra meals. Perhaps understanding the meaning of an extra meal, the thousand-handed centipede immediately calmed down and willingly carried Su Jie as it ran toward Insect Valley. Several days later, in a dense jungle, Su Jie slapped his insect control bag at his waist and called out, "Body worm!" The insect control bag opened, and a wisp of black smoke rose from the bag, which upon closer inspection, was densely packed with human-faced moths. Due to their overwhelming number and density, the tens of thousands of human-faced moths resembled a black cloud, blocking the sunlight, and like a surging tide flowing, wherever the human-faced moth swarm passed. All living creatures and plants were decayed and devoured completely, leaving the ground barren and turned to white land. Body worm focusing method. Indeed a powerful magic skill. Looking at the chilling scene, Su Jie felt extremely satisfied. Over the past few days, relying on the mighty defense of the thousand-handed centipede, Su Jie had entered and exited the territories of the human-faced moths repeatedly, capturing a large number of them. Su Jie wasn't worried about catching all the human-faced moths. These creatures were the most numerous poisonous insects in Insect Valley, numbering in the hundreds of millions. The ones Su Jie caught were merely a drop in the bucket, hardly worth mentioning. In a few days, Su Jie had captured tens of thousands of human-faced moths, using the body worm focusing method to continuously release spiritual energy, allowing his scent to be detected by the human-faced moths. Fed continuously with a supply of poison insects, these human-faced moths gradually recognized Su Jie as their insect king, following his commands faithfully. The tens of thousands of human-faced moths represented the limit of what Su Jie could currently control. Any more, and Su Jie might not be able to control them. The swarm could potentially rebel and devour their master. The swarm continued to dance in the sky. The buzzing sound of their wings flapping echoed from above. A few human-faced moths, compared to the regular ones, had a dark golden hue on their bodies and flew extremely fast. The acid they spat out was so corrosive that it could create holes over 2 meters deep in the ground. These were human-faced moths that had evolved into low-grade poisonous insects. Generally speaking, the evolution of communal poisonous insects is particularly difficult, as they do not rely on individual strength against enemies but on their astonishing numbers, with little difference between individuals. But under Su Jie's ample supply of poison insects, some of the human-faced moths were lucky enough to complete their evolution, becoming stronger than the ordinary individuals in their species. Although there were only a few for now, the number of human-faced moths that successfully evolved was definitely going to increase. With an unending resource of poison insects, Su Jie was very confident about this.